of the executive management of Zenith Bank. We have Adara Mweoje, we have Dennis Oliza, we have Temitope Fashoranti, and we have Umar Ahmed, who are members of Expo of Zenith Bank. And we have a couple of Zenith Bank people on the platform to give light and power to this seminar. Last but not the least, I have the great honor to introduce a man whose leadership this seminar has been put together. Under his leadership, we have been able to put this seminar. I want to introduce to you a diligent man, a man with a common eloquence and courageous leadership. Let me introduce Ebenezer Oyango, the Group MD CEO of Zenith Bank. And let me also invite him, using this opportunity, to give the opening remarks for this seminar. Mr. Oyango, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Henry. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my privilege and honor to welcome everybody to this conference, this seminar. Before I go into my remarks, let me acknowledge the presence of Dr. Naji of CBN. Dr. Naji is a quiet but very dynamic reformer. It is under the leadership and initiative of Dr. Naji that the central bank launched the automation of the NSP processing, which is intended to drive efficiency in our export documentation. Mrs. Naji is at CBN. For people like us who are close to her, I can speak of the truth that Mrs. Naji is there in CBN, driving a lot of initiative that is seeing improvement and expansion in our export business. Then, of course, I must recognize my own dear brother, Segun Awolowo. All of us know Segun Awolowo, his pedigree, his education, his exposure. Segun could have been doing any other thing, but Segun decided to take the job of NEPC as a calling. In fact, yesterday I told him that it's more than a calling now. Segun has taken it as a heritage. Since 2013, when he assumed leadership of Nigerian Export Promotion Council, the awareness and advocacy of export business in Nigeria has since been on the ascendancy. And I like the program he came up with in 2016 when he said the zero oil. Indeed, we started this seminar after having a session with Segun. I would say that Segun, we are one of Segun's early converts. Not only has he converted us, but Segun has made us to become apostles and evangelists for the propagation of the export business in Nigeria. Then you have another friend and brother, the cerebral, irrepressible Aliyu Ahmed. This is a man whose passion for de-risking the agri-business in Nigeria is infectious, the CEO of NISA. Indeed, each time we call upon him, he's at short notice. He always set aside whatever he's doing to honor us. So I'm indeed very proud and grateful to these personalities and every other person who is present here. We started this journey in 2014. Maybe I'll tell you a bit about Zenith Bank, why we are definitely different from the rest of the past. In Zenith Bank, we do a lot of deep thinking. We do a lot of learning. When we had the commodity crash in 2014, 2015, of course, we got into deep thinking. And in our process of doing deep thinking, we asked all the strategic questions of how, where, when, where. And after that, we asked the what if questions. From the what if questions we asked, we start building scenario. And the question we came up was, what if oil dries up? What if there is no oil for Nigeria to explore? And the only response we had was that we have no choice but to go back to our natural endowment. This country is blessed with abundant human and material resources. This country is endowed with enormous solid mineral potentials. In 2016, when I listened to Segun in one of at a seminar, Segun said, in every state of this country, you can boast of 3 different exportable items in all the states of the country. He said minimum. So if you multiply that by 36, it gives you the number of possible exportable items or the diversity of the potential of our country for export. Therefore, we came to the conclusion that the only thing we can do is join in the advocacy to draw a lot more awareness, to draw people to the fact that export business, export orientation is a no-brainer for our country. And I'm happy to know that since we started this program way back in 2014, we've noticed improvement. At the time we started in 2014, if my statistics are right, I think the export figure for the country then was like about $2.7 billion. But as of last year, the statistics we have shows that we've recorded export, total export volume of over $10 million. It may not look so big, but at least we are satisfied with the fact that we can see progress being made. And when you see progress like this, what does it do? It gives you encouragement to power on, to soldier on, and break new frontiers. Another benefit I will notice from this seminar is that in 2018, there were a lot of complaints about the fact that government suspended the issuance of the negotiable duty certificate, and that it was a disincentive to export business. I'm happy that each time we organize this seminar, we have people in government who come in, especially customs, and customs took that complaint. They took it up to the authority. Today, as we speak, not only has government restored the payment of this grant to exporters, but it has been revamped and rejuvenated in a better and more marketable way through the issuance of promissory note. So today, you can get your promissory note in respect of the grant that is due to you, and you can discount and sell it. It's now a discountable treasury instrument. So I give credit to this seminar. Again, by reason of this seminar, we were privileged that when CBN started looking into the process of automation of the export flow and dynamics, Zenith was chosen as a pilot. And Zenith indeed helped CBN in coming up with the automation of the NSP processing. And lastly, ever since we started, we've had a partnership with Nigerian Export Promotion Council to the extent that Zenith has become an incubation ground for training of building talents and helping people to understand and know the dynamics of export business. So on the back of this, we've heard that in the current scenario where we live, with the pandemic, we suddenly found ourselves in a different world. It's as if we're in a different planet where things have changed. Things have changed. The way we live has changed. The way in which we engage in business has changed. If not for the pandemic, we would have gathered together in one room. But for the pandemic, we are now gathered digitally. However, if you look at the pandemic, if you look at it globally, Nigeria is not an exception. The truth is that the direction of travel for the pandemic is known, and that direction is unprecedented and disastrous consequences. But however, the duration of travel, nobody knows. We cannot tell the duration of travel until a vaccine is found. Therefore, the only thing we can continue to do is protect life and livelihood. Protecting life will mean that all of us who have observed, continue to observe the protocol that have been communicated by the World Health Organization and our own health authorities. The next thing is protecting livelihood means that business must go on. Protecting livelihood for our country means that we now need to reinvigorate the export business. We need to latch on the potentials of this country to rejuvenate the export earnings of this country. One of the areas in which the pandemic has affected us as a country is the fact that our earnings from crude has been seriously impacted. Before the pandemic, average price of crude was $70 per barrel. But when the pandemic broke, we saw crude price fall to as low as $15 per barrel. Now it hovers around $40 per barrel. Even with that $40 per barrel, we still suffer from the OPEC cut of 25% in volume. As a result, our export earning from crude is seriously under pressure. And that is why we have this foreign exchange challenge. The exchange rate is the way it is because we have not developed our export potential. And people talk about the fact that we have challenge of export not generating enough export proceeds, not being able to have the supply. For me, there are two things to do to deal with Nigerian foreign exchange challenges. First is that we need to change our taste board. Two is that we need to now begin to explore and do a lot more of export. We need to begin to consider the export we do in some cases, we do primary export. You produce a cashew, you export it. You produce cassava, you export it. Let's now start thinking of primary production so that we can increase and expand the value chain. It will interest you to know that cassava, you can do quite a lot with cassava. But the popular thing we know to do with cassava is to ferment it and get fufu, get gari. But cassava, beyond fermentation, if you process the raw cassava, you can produce glucose, you can produce starch, you can produce sorbitol. That is a basic raw material for making of, production of cubes and for production of toothpaste. And you don't need anything so much to grow cassava in our country. And these are things we can blow up and now export. So if you look back to the potentials of this country, I remember in secondary school, I was very excited to read about the fact that Nigeria was one of the world's leading producers of palm oil, one of the world's leading producers of cotton, one of the world's leading producers of groundnut, of cocoa. Today, I don't know where we count. And the other issue is that Malaysia today is rated as one of the topmost world producer of palm oil. Where did Malaysia get their seedling from? In the 70s, Malaysia got their seedlings from Nigeria. So what you have as the potential or the exploit of Malaysia in terms of palm production could have been ascribed to Nigeria. But somehow we've abandoned it. Now is the time for us to go back to it. For anybody who is looking for a transition out of the pandemic, whether as an individual or as a nation, the anchor point, the master stroke that you cannot make a mistake is for us to go back to develop our potentials, our agri-business. Not just developing it for the for export market, but also developing it for the purpose of backward integration and for us to guarantee food security. So Zenith Bank is solidly committed to this agenda of promoting our export business, which is why we continue to have this seminar on a yearly basis. And so far, we are impressed with the growth. And we bring all the stakeholders together so that we can talk about the problems. And the policy makers are here. You can see they take it back and they process it for us to refine and fine-tune the process. So it is my pleasure to welcome every one of us to this session. There will be opportunity for you to ask questions. We'll try to take as many questions as possible, but I expect that when we come out of this session, we should be able to hold on to one or two items that we can challenge the policy holders that they can go back. Like Dr. Naji can go back to CB and say, yes, we think we need to fine-tune this policy. And again, government is also doing more to promote exports. I'm aware the central bank will have the AFMIS fund, which is a pool of funds that banks have come together to contribute, available to give to medium and small scale businesses at single digit and long term to deal with the problem of lack of adequate capital to incubate some of these businesses. Then we also have the differentiated cash reserve ratio lending. Very recently, we've seen quite a lot of reforms from government. The federal government came up with the Finance Act. If you look at the spirit and letter of the Finance Act, you see that it is there. One of the gains of the Finance Act is that the burden of tax payment and tax administration for small businesses is reduced. Again, we've seen the reform in the Companies and Allied Matters Act. It has also reduced the burden and requirement for the setting up of small-scale enterprises. So these are initiatives, in my view, I consider very laudable on the part of government. Yesterday, we had a bankers committee meeting. The clarion call from the central bank governor is, banks, you should go ahead and promote the drive for export. If we want to deal with, if we are interested in bringing, if you ask everybody now, exchange rate, somebody will tell you, oh, this time next year, we'll think exchange rate to eat 600. Exchange rate indeed can have a reversal. And the way for it to have a reversal is increase export business. Let me also draw our attention to the fact that the inauguration of the African Continental Free Trade Zone, which has just been inaugurated about a week ago in Accra. Last week, Friday, we had the privilege of also in another seminar, hosting His Excellency Mede Wamkele, the Secretary General of African Union, Africa Continental Free Trade Zone. And at that session, I made a commitment to him that Zenith Bank, as a Pan-African focused institution, we will contribute our quota to helping to drive the initiative of the Africa Continental Free Trade Zone area by building a trade portal. Why do we want to build a trade portal? We want to create visibility for our exporters. We want to create visibility for exportable products and services from Nigeria and the African market. And let us also bear in mind that if we are talking of African Continental Free Trade Zone, Nigeria, with our population of over 200, we have the largest concentration of market. So it behoves on us to take the leading position in driving the African Continental Free Trade Zone. And the way to drive it is to get ready to see that our goods are now available in every African market. If we don't do that, we are going to have a situation where Nigeria will become a dumping ground. So it is on this note that we felt that we needed to give a renewed strength and vigor. We need to build a new tempo to accelerate our export drive. Everybody says that this time we live in the age of agility. If it's in the age of agility, then we should be accelerating in our efforts. So we welcome you. Whatever initiative you have, whatever suggestion you have, let's put it together. So it is my pleasure and privilege to welcome everyone to this session. And I look forward to a very fruitful, rewarding, and very insightful deliberation today. And for those of you exporters, I also welcome you. Yeah, first it's a mandate to increase the export market for Nigeria. But I tell you, follow those who know the way. If you are getting involved, I welcome you to onboard your business with Zenith. Onboard your business with Zenith because Zenith will guarantee you visibility. Zenith will guarantee you knowledge. Zenith will guarantee you documentation. If we are doing this for the market, when you come to us one-on-one, we'll give you, we give you maximum attention and concentration. So as much as possible, we expect that after this session, as many of you exporters will come under the Zenith platform so that we'll give you that exposure and guarantee you the growth. Facilities are there at single digits. If you want to discount your export process, we are there to discount it. If you want pre-shipment financing, we are there to provide it for you. So that together we'll build a bigger nation. Together we'll build a nation that will withstand the effects of the pandemic, re-engineer our nation. Let's reinvigorate it. There can never be a better time to be in Nigeria than now. I am sure, I'm very optimistic that Nigeria is set for greatness as we transition out of this pandemic. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I formally welcome all of you to this session. Henry, unmute yourself. Henry, unmute.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Benito Onyango. Thank you for your incisive presentation, and thank you for the leadership you are showing in building capacity with Zenith and with Zenith family, and the support we're giving to our customers. We heard you very clearly with the extent of collaboration we have with the central bank in developing the export business in Nigeria. We heard you very clearly when you said, by this we are starting an export revolution, and everybody on this platform will be part of history in starting this export revolution. We heard you very clearly when you said that value-added export is going to be of so much value to this continent and to this country. We are talking of export beneficiation, where we produce secondary goods and export from our primary products. We heard you very clearly the leading role we had in the early years, but that role we have delegated to other countries. And we heard you very clearly that by this seminar, we are bringing ourselves to that leading platform. And I believe, like you said, under the Finance Act and CAMA, there are enablers on the regulatory side that will enable the small-scale exporters, that will support them to go into big-time exporters. So I believe this seminar will provide that platform, and I believe everybody on this platform is ready to take the clarion call and take the challenge to make Nigeria to diversify the revenue stream from oil, and we begin to produce exportable products from agri and non-agri products. Thank you, Mr. Ebenezer, for your incisive opening remarks. Okay, we're going to move on, and a little bit of housekeeping. The Q&A, I believe some of us would like to ask questions right away, but please note your questions, and you can put your questions on the chat box. And we're going to have a time for Q&A after every presenter has presented, just to be able to manage the time very, very effectively. So note your questions, and we're going to be taking your questions at the end of the presentations. And I also want to indulge every presenter, you know the time slot allotted to you. Let's try as much as possible to keep within the time slot. And where we need to support you to trigger you in terms of time breach, if you don't mind, I will be doing that so that we keep within the time frame. So thank you so very much. And the next person will be invited to this platform will be the Director of Trade and Exchange herself of the Central Bank of Nigeria, who will give the keynote address. Let's welcome Dr. O.S. Naji. Dr. O.S. Naji for the keynote address, please.
Thank you very much. And that was a brilliant opening by the MD of Zenith Bank, who is a patriot and a Nigerian with unmatched enthusiasm for the potentials and possibilities that exist in our country. He's a friend of the Central Bank, a friend of the department, because he's always there whenever we call on him. We collaborate with Zenith Bank, and we thank you very much for that collaboration and for that attention. Let me now go to my remarks. Good morning, MD of the Zenith Bank and management and staff of the Zenith Bank. Good morning, distinguished guests, my dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Let me convey the good wishes of the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, to the conveners of this stakeholders webinar. Let me also congratulate the management and staff of the Zenith Bank for this laudable effort and state that the Central Bank is very delighted to be part of this occasion. It gives me great pleasure to be speaking at this webinar on the issue of international trade and non-oil exports in Nigeria. I want to thank Zenith Bank again for the choice of the topic and to urge all participants to pay keen attention, ask questions, so that at the end of the seminar, we'll come up with concrete ideas and roadmap on ways of genuinely improving the quality and quantity of our non-exports goods. Ladies and gentlemen, you will agree with me that the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic is another opportunity for a wake-up call for this country, as it has once again exposed the overdependence of the Nigerian economy to one product, which is oil. The slowdown in industrial production and other disruptions due to the forced lockdown around the globe has caused a decline in the demand and price of crude oil, bringing to fore again a renewed policy debate on the need for a deeper policy look at the non-oil sector as a means of cushioning the impact of global shocks on the Nigerian economy. According to the data from the National Port Authority, non-oil export accounted for 22% of all cargo out of Nigeria in 2019. Additionally, data from the National Bureau of Statistics put the value of non-export in 2019 at about $11.8 billion, while oil export stood at $41.8 billion. The sector also accounted for about 95% of the GDP the first quarter of 2020, but growth has declined in that sector, still in the first quarter of 2020. Growth in Nigeria's non-oil exports was slower by about 0.93% in the first quarter of 2020. As the COVID-19 pandemic continues to stifle international trade and disrupt businesses and supply chain, it is important that attention is paid to the non-oil sector for the economic stability of the nation. Optimal attention should be given to sectors such as manufacturing, agriculture, information technology, and most importantly, the SME sector, which can drive job creation, improve industrialization, increase GDP performance, and play a critical role in the process of economic growth. Distinguished guests, distinguished colleagues, to this end, the CBN, as part of its 5 years policy trust, sought to pursue, among others, the increase in non-oil export from 2 billion to about 12 billion. To achieve this, the bank has commenced funding of the value chain of identified commodities, with positive results already recorded in crops like cassava, cocoa, fish, livestock and dairy, maize, palm oil, product, rice, and tomato, to name a few. This effort is being bolstered by the establishment of non-oil export stimulation facility fund, which was introduced by the central bank to diversify the revenue base of the economy and to expedite the growth and development of the non-oil sector. The facility will help redress the declining export financing and reposition the sector to increase the contribution and its contribution to economic development of the country. The objective of these funds are as follows. 1, improve access of exporters to concessionary finance to expand and diversify the non-oil sector basket. 2, attract new investment and encourage reinvestment in value-added non-oil exports. 3, shore up non-oil export productivity and create more jobs. 4, support export-oriented companies to upscale and expand their export operation as well as capabilities. And 5, to broaden the scope of export financing instruments. This is a good product that banks can market to potential investors or existing customers that are interested in expanding their export business. Ladies and gentlemen, this facility has a generous interest rate of single digit at 9%, maximum amount of 5 billion per customer, and a termination date of 2027. So, customers have about 7 years if they're interested in accessing this facility through banks like Zenith, and the MD has told us that they are willing to assist exporters. In addition, the CBN has other programs that are geared towards the promotion of the non-oil sector. Some of the targeted programs in agriculture value chain, the Anchor Borrowers Program, are all aimed at the promotion of the non-oil sector. I encourage participants to explore these programs with a view to improving their export businesses. The government is also promoting some 22 commodities targeted for export expansion, such as rice that I mentioned before, palm produce, dairy, and etc. While the CBN, as the monetary arm of government, is doing a lot in this regard, a lot more needs to be done, both collectively and individually. And some of these things that needs to be done is that I think there should be an establishment of an inclusive export policy control board, whose primary responsibility will be to tackle the bottlenecks being faced by Nigerian exporters in the export value chain. This will include follow-up and measurement of the performance and outcomes of policies emanating from this collaborative effort. This effort should include the federal government, state governments, Federal Ministry of Finance and National Planning, Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, the Nigerian Export and Import Bank, other stakeholders in the development of export trade in the country, Some of the outcomes to be measured will be risk moderation in the export value chain, export credit services, investment maturity periods, port management, lower transaction costs for exporters, export procedures and export financing on better terms for exporters. We also think that there should be a Nigerian private sector collaboration to reduce or eliminate risk and waste within the non-oil export value chain and gain a better understanding of all the export ecosystem for the non-oil exports. I think there's lack of information. People that have goods to export, there are some bottlenecks, and I think that a collaborative effort will ease some of these bottlenecks. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really delighted about our topic of conversation today. And at this time in our history, I am especially looking forward to harnessing ideas from practitioners in this platform on how best to move a non-oil sector forward for the good of all of us and for the economic survival of our country. It is an urgent call for all of us. The impact of COVID-19 pandemic has made this even more evidence to all of us that this needs to be done. Furthermore, I urge all participants at this seminar to brainstorm especially on the following issues. Identify competitive and potentially exportable non-oil commodities and services in the COVID-19 era. What are those commodities and services that we can push and sell and earn income? Come up with effective export policy, instruments, channels, agreements, and domestic institutional arrangements to drive non-oil export. And provide feedback to Central Bank on any collaborative policy initiative that is necessary to move the sector forward. On this note, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very most sincerely for inviting me to be part of this seminar. And I look forward to learning from you on what can be done and to further collaboration in our collective quest to increase our non-oil export base and make our economy. On that note, I thank you very, very much.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Mrs. Nanji, for your paper. Thank you so very much for your participation. We heard you very clearly on the issues you have raised, and I agree with you. If at the end of the seminar, we're able to identify those exportable non-oil products, we would have done a great deal of service to the agenda for today. And I believe at the end of the day, we should also be able to discuss and tackle the issues of bottlenecks around the various export value chain. Thank you so very much, Dr. Mrs. Nanji, for your paper. I believe later on in this program, you will have the opportunity to respond to questions and issues that will be raised by participants. Thank you so very much. Let's appreciate Dr. Nanji once more, please. Thank you so very much.
Many thanks.
And I also thank you so very much for keeping to the timeline set for you. You set a good reference for the next presentations.
Thank you.
The next paper will be presented by one of our own. That is the Executive Director of Zenith Bank, Dennis Olisa, who will be speaking on financing non-oil export in Nigeria, the Zenith Bank experience. Let's welcome Dennis Olisa, please.
Thank you very much, Henry. It is indeed a great pleasure and a very, very rare privilege on my part to be asked to come and make a presentation at this great seminar. I would like to stand on all existing protocols, but at the same time, I would really like to appreciate and welcome to this forum the Director, Trade and Exchange of CBN. I also do appreciate the presence of Dr. Awolowo. He's been a big influencer in this aspect of our economic life. We also would like to appreciate the presence of the MD of Nirasal. He's not only our big brother, but he's also somebody whom we can call upon at any point in time, and he will be ready to support our cause in the bank. I welcome all our brothers who work for the regulatory agencies. Here I'm talking about the customs people who are essentially in charge of ensuring that we have a smooth flow of goods out of this country, as well as those that are coming into this country. It's indeed also a pleasure for me to welcome all our exporters who are participants and other distinguished ladies and gentlemen who are on this forum today. I've been asked to talk about the efforts that Zenith Bank make in ensuring that non-oil exports are actually given a place of pride, not only in Zenith Bank, but also in the country. I would like to start by giving a small background. We have looked at it in-house, and we've looked at the economy at large, and we've asked ourselves a few questions. One of the questions we've asked ourselves is, at this stage, sitting in our own economic valley, how do we see recovery, or where do we see recovery from our economic predicaments coming from? We think our recovery will be based on three major planks. The first one is for us as a nation to create new and very significant sources where the country can gain foreign exchange. And that is where this program actually fits in. The second area we think Nigeria should focus on for us to get mileage economically is to see how we can improve our infrastructure. Infrastructure is not limited to just roads. We are looking at electricity, we are looking at our rail lines, we are looking at education, as well as our health services. These are areas that will not only guarantee good quality of life, but also ensure that the well-being of every Nigerian is actually maintained. The last plank we believe that will give rise to great economic recovery for us as a country is for us to inculcate a strong sense of fiscal discipline and accountability in all aspects of our business life, particularly as we do business in the export arena. I'm sharing my screen now. If there's anybody who is not seeing the screen, please let us know. As a bank, this is the outline. As a country, these are some of the exports that were done in Q1 2020. Most of the export that we do is usually agricultural goods, like my GMD mentioned, raw materials, solid minerals, energy goods, and very small manufacturing. For us to become a country that gains a lot from exports, we need to begin to see how we can do what is called value addition to our natural products. In 2019, this is the value of exports that were done by Nigeria. We have percentage of non-oil exports at roughly 15% of the total export that was done by the country. The director of trade has also told us that 22% of all cargoes that go out of our ports are actually exports oriented. So what stops us as a nation to look at how we can move this 22% to maybe 30% in the first instance, and with time to move it to about 50%? That actually will help Nigeria not only create more foreign revenues, but also improve our balance of payment situation and, of course, help the quality of life of the nation. These are some of the non-oil exports that Nigeria has embarked upon in the year 2020. I don't want to go into much details, but if we look at it, actually, there are very few commodities here that qualify for what you can call value-added services. The truth of the matter is that if we continue to export products in their raw forms and without adding any value, we lose two things. First, we don't have control over the price, because international commodities, the prices of which are fixed in the international market, we don't have control over this. But if we add value, we begin not only to demand that certain prices should be paid for our products, but we also be getting significant increase in foreign exchange that are created into the country. Again, these are some of the continents to which our products are actually exported to. Our major trading partner is still Europe. In Asia, one of the most recognizable destinations for our products is actually in India. But I will talk about India sometime in the course of the presentation. Now, what are the prospects that the non-oil exports sector presents for us? Today, because of the African Continental Trade free trade agreement, there is opportunity for us to do more of intra-African trade. It is estimated today that the intra-African trade opportunities that exist is about $35 billion per annum. African Export-Import Bank has also put aside a facility of almost $500 million to facilitate and provide support for manufacturers who produce goods that are meant for export. We can start with the African continent. Again, there is opportunity provided by Afro-Exim for all of us to see how we can leverage, particularly exporters, on some of the facilities as well as training opportunities that are provided by Afro-Exim to ensure that AFTA is not only giving life to, but also it becomes part of the economic story of Africa. ECOWAS, where we belong to in our own side, actually does have a trade liberalization scheme that helps African countries ensure that trades are facilitated among themselves. We urge governments that for us to harness all of these opportunities, there need to be good policies that must be put in place to ensure that the entire ecosystem works in tandem. The entire ecosystem, we do not have people who are working at cross purposes. That is one of the ways that we believe that not only that AFTA can be given life to, but also that the business itself, which is the essence of why we are gathered here, can actually get more meaning. In Nigeria, there are quite a number of incentives that have been put in place to ensure that Nigeria drives non-oil export. The GMD mentioned the export expansion grants, which NEPC have actually been pursuing for quite some time. Not only have they been pursuing it, but they've also given life to it, because we have seen quite a number of promissory notes that have been issued to exporters in the market. These promissory notes are not only alive, but they're also tradable. So they also provide a secondary market for people to do business in financial as well as monetary instruments. The RASAL, on their part, will talk to us again, like they always do, about the things that they put in place to de-risk the agri sector. During a session we had yesterday, the emphasis basically is for farmers to see how they can aggregate themselves and provide about 250 hectares of land that is of arable land that is cultivatable with whatever product. NIRASA will come in and provide guarantees. But again, NIRASA, they will talk to us about it, but I just want to stress that a little bit. I've also said that they will not shy away from looking at small holdings. So as we go about our session today, please let us feel free to ask questions in that area. The CBN, on their part, have introduced the trade monitoring system that has helped not only to reduce documentation, but also to reduce processing time for not only NXPs, which are used for exports, but also for imports as well. These are areas regulators, especially the CBN, has continued to help to ensure that export business is not only de-risked, but the process is also strengthened and made better. The CBN, on their part, also have come up with export finance incentives. We know about the NESF, that is non-oil export stimulation facility, is about 500 billion naira. It's available not only as long-term loan, but also there are opportunities to use them for working capital. So we invite all exporters who are interested in taking advantage of this to work with Zenith Bank, because this is an area we not only have experience in, but I can assure you we've developed reasonable expertise, and we will ensure that we guide you, not only guide you to be successful, but also guide you to ensure that you stay in it for a very long time to come. We have experience in international trade in Nigeria. We are working in collaboration with the Bank of Industry to help our exporters leverage on some of the financing schemes that have been provided by Bank of Industry. These are some of the things that are already in place today for us to aid our exporters in the business that they do. Nexim in Nigeria also has a 50 billion export development facility, and they are urging exporters to see how they can take advantage of this, of course, working in collaboration with banks. Zenith Bank, we put ourselves forward and urge you to talk to your branch manager or to talk to your relationship persons and see how we can drive the process forward. The CBN also has the RSSF DCRR facility, which they've earmarked, and they continue to stress that if we have people who are into the export business, particularly people who are into the business of adding value to exportable products, we should bring them forward. They are ready to support. We also have the Agribusiness Small and Medium Enterprises Scheme of the Bank of Industry. We urge exporters to also take advantage of this. What have we been doing as a bank, Zenith Bank, in ensuring that we not only promote exports, but we also move exports from being 22% of all the cargoes exported out of Nigeria last year to our own ambition, which is to see about 50% of cargoes going out of Nigeria to be goods that are actually non-oil and are at the same time exportable. We are participating actively in the 500 billion naira non-oil export stimulation facility of CBN. We have the Creative Industry Finance Initiative. We have the Nigerian Commercial Agri-Credit Scheme. We are a strong participant in this. We also do not shy away from the Small and Medium Scale Enterprises Scheme of the CBN. Within the bank itself, we've also set aside funds that are meant to help customers build capacity, be that in the area of training. A good example is what we are doing here. But we also have our Zero to Hero program, where we go down to these particular exporters and take them on in the nitty-gritties that is associated with export business in Nigeria. We are also seriously involved in identifying and connecting customers to regional as well as global export hubs. Here, I also want to ask our exporters to look at the International Trade Portal, International Trade Conference Portal. It has a lot of information that I think will be very, very relevant to what exporters are doing. We'll continually create awareness about opportunities in the market. We'll continue to ensure that our exporters, as well as all our customers, are aware about the risk as well as the impediments that are associated with the export business by not only issuing out bulletins, but we'll also be intermittently creating reports that can be shared in the market at large. In Zenith, we have a large pool of trade officers who are ready at any point in time to listen, not only listen, but also help our exporters solve whatever problems that they can within our own abilities. Again, we have a lot of relationship with correspondent banks abroad, because you need these banks not only to facilitate your NXPs, but sometimes to also accept the bills that have been issued by the importer in your favor. These are areas we think we all can work together and make things happen for all of us. We'll ensure that we direct you to the right insurance companies who will not only insure your goods, but when the inevitable happens, they will be ready to back their insurance with the appropriate claim amount, so that you're not left in a stupor. We have provided unique guarantees to support market, particularly for goods that are perishable, that are going across borders. There are insurance schemes that are in place that can protect all of us. They not only protect us in terms of the monies that have been lent, but also protect you for the efforts that you have made to ensure that you put those businesses out there. We have a wealth of foreign exchange pool within us in the bank. So if your needs are basically foreign exchange inclined, we are ready to support you, so long as we can work with you and agree on how these things can be brought back when the time actually comes. As a bank, like I said, we've also been working on the discounted cash reserve requirement fund. As we speak today, Zenith Bank has disbursed about 73.2 billion to non-oil exporters, for them not only to increase capacity, but also to make their product more sellable abroad. Because what we have realized in recent times is that the more value you add to your primary products as they go across the border, the more return you also get for your investment. Under the non-oil export stimulation facility, we've disbursed over 27 billion naira to non-oil exporters, and we are inclined and ready to do more. On the various schemes that are available to us as a bank, we'll continue to disburse funds, because essentially that is what we do. I cannot continue without letting all of us know that there are indeed a lot of challenges that face non-oil exports in Nigeria. One of the greatest challenges is the poor product quality and standards. We are all aware of the ban on dried beans that has been imposed by the European Union on all beans that are being exported out of Nigeria. Reason being that the insecticide that Nigeria is actually using to protect, exporters rather from Nigeria are using to protect the beans from attacks of weevils and all of that is harmful to human consumption. I read a report where NEPC actually saying that they are working extensively with the European Union to ensure that this ban is lifted. The ban is expected to be lifted by June next year. I pray that they succeed because we have a lot of exportable beans and understand that the quality of our beans is actually very, very good. There are quite a number of other primary products that comes out of the country, and we need to see how we can improve on the quality as well as the standardization. This will not only help us, but also ensure that things that are coming out of Nigeria are given the right regard and respect. We cannot talk enough about logistics. That is one of the reasons why we have invited people from the customs to come and tell us how they are trying, what they are doing to ensure that the challenges of logistics are reduced, if not totally eliminated. It does not make sense for people to want to export their goods. Primary products are that, and it sits at Apapa or somewhere around Apapa for about 4 weeks before it gets to the ship that will now take it out of the country. It is no surprise, therefore, when our products get across to the other countries, they tell us that it doesn't meet quality or standards. I would like to state here that in Kenya, they export fresh flowers on a daily basis. So if they have put in place a system that ensures that they can export flowers that are harvested within 24 hours in their country, and they take them into Europe within a maximum period of 48 hours, then we in Nigeria, there's quite a lot of work for us to do. Intracity transportation and logistics is a major challenge. I've spoken to exporters as well as importers who tell you that it takes roughly about 20 to 28 days for a container of goods to come from a port in Guangzhou, China to Apapa port. But it takes another 48 days for it to move from Apapa port to a warehouse somewhere in Maturi. These are areas I think we can look at. We have an absence of financial information and consistent data of all exporters as well as exportable goods. If you go to the website of the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, there are quite a number of helpful information there, but I strongly believe that there is more that can be done so that people can have access not only to financial information, but also to goods that are available or acceptable outside, as well as the minimum level of quality that is expected. In Nigeria, the cost of energy is a major issue. Quite a number of factories that are working today are running on genset and, of course, diesel. We, especially the government, can look at how to ensure that energy cost for operation is actually brought down significantly. This will not only reduce the cost of production, but eventually will help our exporters improve their margin. We are not advocating for the old marketing board to be brought back, but I do believe that the role they used to play, somehow there is a vacuum in that aspect. So if we have aggregators, maybe we decentralize them, they are not just in one location, but we put them in areas where we have some commodities, or let me use the word, some comparative advantage, because some locations have more comparative advantage than others. Then maybe they also will help us in ensuring that we not only disaggregate sales, but we have somebody who can put these goods together in a particular warehouse, and then giving you the opportunity of scale can actually move these goods to the export point at a cheaper price. This will go a long way to also reduce the cost of doing business. There is a lot of knowledge gap in the export business. One of the knowledge gap is what we are trying to do today, but we cannot solve it all. we are urging all participants as well as all stakeholders in the export ecosystem to see how we can all put our hands together to improve the knowledge gap that is existing in this area. For us in Zenith, what is the way forward? Like I said, we need to see how we can create significant new sources for the country to earn foreign exchange. We need to see how to add more value to the primary products that we produce and export. If we add more value, it means that we have control or a little bit more control over the prices that we charge for our commodities when they get out there. Packaging, quality, and standard is an issue. We need to tell ourselves what kind of standard we want to see for our exportable products. These standards must actually be properly highlighted, communicated, and understood by exporters. That way, all parties in the ecosystem will know that whatever it is that is leaving our shores meets the right quality, it meets the right standard, so that goods are not stopped at the point of entry in the other side. We need to look again at our various export intervention funds. There are quite a number of them in place today, but we need to look at how they are, whether they actually meet the need of all exporters. What about the provision of a one-stop quality inspection and certification point at the ports? This has become very, very important.
Okay, Dennis, yes. I know you are very loaded, and we're about 20 minutes behind time with your own time.
We will not. Yeah, I understand. We will not end this without talking about the role of what I call a settlement system. In the African market today, if you want to open an LC, if you want to establish an export LC using your NXP, it must be advised either to a foreign bank, Citibank, Standard Chartered, as the case may be, and they in turn will now advise the beneficiary who is still in Africa. So the question is, can we have an exchange system where we as exporters who are exporting goods to an African country, we do not need to rely on another foreign bank. We can do it within our own system. We have Nigerian banks who have affiliates or subsidiaries outside our shores who are in areas where we have where we can export goods to. Is there a way we can put an exchange to ensure that payment system is not only better, but it is actually cheaper? These are some of the things I believe that we can look at, and export as an aspect of our business will not only grow, but will also thrive as we go down the 21st century. I say a big thank you and a big welcome again to all our participants. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Thank you so very much. That was quite an incisive presentation from the Zenith perspective. Thank you so very much. You raised very contemporary issues as it affects our business, the export business in Nigeria. At least you're able to put more light on the facilities available for producers and exporters. The RSSF, the Rail Sector Support Facility, is there. It's available through Zenith. The DCRO, differentiated cash reserve ratio, is available through Zenith, and we disburse quite a lot. I like the figure that you called. The commercial agri credit scheme is available through Zenith, and we're collaborating with the Central Bank in pushing that. And it's available to you guys on the platform who are importers and exporters and producers in the Nigerian market. And the non-oil export stimulation facility, 500 billion, is also available through Zenith. And Zenith is disbursing all this to various platforms. I hear you about the challenge that we face in the export value chain, and I believe the various papers that we presented today will also find a way to tell us how they are working together to resolve those challenges. It is painful to know that, like you said, it takes a much shorter time to move products from China to Lagos than it is probably to move from Lagos to from Lagos port to some other ports, some other locations in Lagos. It's not only shorter in time to move from China to Lagos, it's also more expensive to move a container of goods from the Apapa port to Maturi, to Ikorodu, to Sangota. It is more expensive. Probably you probably pay ₦1 million to move a container of goods to some parts of Lagos, whereas you pay much less to move a container of goods from China to Lagos. So those are the bottlenecks and the challenges we contend with. And I believe this seminar will smoothen some of these things out and we bring communiques to the various stakeholders and see how we can smoothen this out. Thank you so much, Dennis. We heard about the marketing boards of old. And in our fellow friends in Ghana, they have the cocoa board, and the cocoa board is working effectively. That is why they are able to harness the resource they have in cocoa, much like we have in Nigeria, but they've done so well in using a cocoa board to drive efficiency of cocoa export in Ghana. I think we can look at some of these opportunities and borrow from them, and so that we can improve our export products in Nigeria. So thank you so very much, Dennis. All right. While you were speaking, some of the notes that hit our chat box was like, these opportunities that Zenith has, is it available in all the branches of Zenith? Yes. If you need to sign on or avail on any of these opportunities, you are at liberty to approach any branch of Zenith Bank, anywhere around Nigeria, and you will get the same service like you walked into the head office of Zenith Bank. We have very competent and well-trained relationship managers who will give you all the support in real time. So feel free to approach any branch of Zenith and your requirement will be met. Thank you so much, Dennis. Shortly we'll be inviting our very good friend, Mr. Segun Awolowo, to come to the platform, who is the Executive Director of Nigerian Export Promotion Council. This is somebody who has worked with us, is a good friend of the house, is always there when we need him. And we very appreciate your presence, sir, in spite of your very, very busy schedule. Please let us appreciate Mr. Segun Awolowo, and I would like to invite him to this platform to speak on repositioning the non-oil export as a leading revenue earner, and what are the government plans and what are the government programs to make this happen. Mr. Segun Awolowo, sir. I think you're on mute. You can unmute your mic.
Thank you very much for this. Let me first, of course, thank the management of Zenith Bank for organizing this seminar again. I believe this is the fourth one that Zenith is doing. Indeed, Zenith Bank, with the founder, chairman, and my brother, the GMD, were in one of the very first converts and believers in transforming our economy. And when I presented the zero oil plan to them many years ago, they immediately bought in because they saw the future. We said in the zero oil plan, and a very ambitious plan then, as it looked then, very ambitious, that Nigeria must survive in the world economy where she no longer sells oil. And that was it. And that was the task we set to ourselves. My job has been made very easy today because after listening to my brother Ebenezer, I say, oh, he's like a co-CEO of NEPC. He has done all the promotion. So now it's now for him to make me a co-CEO of Zenith Bank, so I can sign checks there. So I thank you very much for this. I must greet the panelists, the CBN representative, I greet her, and particularly my brother, the MD of NISA, that is doing a very great job in agricultural products development in Nigeria. Let me thank Dennis for his paper as well, and it could have easily been an NEPC paper. So that's where you see the collaboration between Zenith and NEPC. I make bold to say that we can say that Zenith is the export bank of Nigeria. Thank you very much. I will Let me just make 2 comments before I share my screen. I'm going to run quickly through it. So, because most of the things.
Mr. Shegun, you said something very, very interesting, that Nigeria is the export bank of Nigeria.
Zenith is the
export bank of Nigeria. I thought I needed to reiterate that as a powerful quote, and thank you for that confidence. Thank you so very much.
Okay. So let me just make 3 comments before I run through my presentation. I'm going to keep to my time screen. The CBN, Dr. Naji mentioned one very important point about having an inclusive export policy group. Well, I welcome that, but we already have the National Committee on Export Promotion. It's a NEC committee. That's the Nigerian Economic Council Committee, chaired by the Vice President. We have the 36 state governors on it, and CBN is also a member, some ministries as well, and some MDAs are members. So we already have that, and the plan is to work to implement this zero oil plan. We will be having a webinar like this meeting on Friday, just to move things up. My brother Dennis talked about on the website of NEPC, and yes, it's a work in progress. And right now we're doing data for all exporters, products, etc. So we're continuing improving it. I would like to also quickly point out to my brother Ebenezer JMG that on that trade portal, it's good we work together. We need Zenith to back us with that, because that will help us going into Africa Free Continental Trade Area. Now, let me quickly run through my presentation. Can I share my screen, or you do it for me, Henry?
Yeah, I think you can share your screen.
Oh, you have to share your screen, sir. You have to share your screen.
Okay. I want to know if I have the, where is it? What do I do? Share. No.
There's an icon there that says share screen on your side. It will say, you see share screen.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, share screen.
Okay. Is it on? Huh? Okay, I can start. Okay. Thank you very much. Let me start immediately by going into, before COVID, some of the growth in the non-oil product sector since 2016. The most strategic sectors have been some of the one in our zero oil plan: sesame, cashew, fertilizer, and leather. In particular, the value of sesame has risen by $153 million since 2016. That's an increase of over 100%. That is based on the work we've done. The CBN mentioned they took 5 key products from the zero oil plan and they pumped money into it, and it has grown as well. Export of services, which is also very big and important, is also growing. And then the estimates from the IMF say we will double our exports of services. We have gone almost up to 5 billion in that, and that pushed our export growth. And I must say that this is mostly in the financial sector, the creative sector, and your bank is very much in tune with that. Then the world was hit by this pandemic, and we had always said that, look, oil prices, we cannot rely on oil prices. Look, you have an economy that your foreign exchange earnings is 90% on oil. But when you look at the GDP that same oil provides is only about 8%. Now, the other sectors, dominate your GDP. So I said the economy is already diversified, but you are not earning foreign exchange from that diversified base. And that's the main problem we have. Our response to the COVID, we had an impact assessment on, of course, agricultural products. We looked at the commodity prices and market trends, and we knew we're going to have a fall in many of these. They're going to suffer a fall. Sesame is proving a bit more stronger than the others, but that is when you know that there's a problem. We decided to listen to our SMEs. We sent out questionnaires to many of them, and these were some of the problems they wanted clear. And many of them have already been addressed to. We talked to the CBN about the exporters foreign exchange window, special clearance for export at ports. NPA has started and working with us on that. The acceleration of the EEG claims, the GMD talked about that, how the government has been able to pay almost the total bill on that was some 350 billion. Government has been able to pay over half of that. We're still waiting for National Assembly to approve the others. But paying, we have done an holistic review of the export expansion grant, and we're going to be continuously reviewing it so it can be sustainable. Waiver of port levies for exporters done. We have more tax holidays for non-oil exporters. And major, we reopened the NACO shed. And now I was there some 2 weeks ago, and we have been able to move agricultural products and cold food, straight into Europe the next day. NAFDAC have agreed to fast track registration of new exporters for us. Of course, there was that waiver of renewal and registration fees for exporters. Like I mentioned, the EEG, there's a mistake there. It's actually 10% now. We've reduced it. And we have now changed it into export credit certificates, and which you can use for many bank debts, tax, customs, you can VAT, you can use it for many things. So just to expand the base for it. We're working on the Export Development Fund that will help our SMEs, MSMEs. These are grants that will give them to raise their business training, capacity building, et cetera, and that will help them, particularly as we look into the African Free Continental Trade Area. In the longer term, of course, we've said the zero oil plan is really the answer to everything we're to do. And these are a list of the 22 products that we picked. The CBN has picked some of it and put money in it because they are also looking at import substitution. That in fact, look, take rice. If we're not importing so much, then we save foreign exchange. Well, it's also an idea that might work, but I say, look, get all these products ready, boost them for export, and like Dennis also mentioned in his paper, that great value addition that we must do, and it's already happening. It's already happening. Let me just give you one quick example on cashew. For example, we're now processing cashew in Nigeria, and we have had the cost over these years to launch 2 or 3 cashew processing plants, and which is fantastic for us because all our cashew goes to India and Vietnam. But now we're starting to process, and then we now want to export. We're already exporting semi-processed to the United States. I know a factory that is doing $500,000 on that every month to the United States. So we're looking to go get our cashew now into different department stores across the world, starting with department stores, of course, in Nigeria. One thing Dennis also mentioned, which I must quickly comment on, is For instance, in cocoa, he said about cocoa in Ghana and everything. Yes, our production is low, and that's the main problem we have. So the Zero Plan is calling for increased production and productivity all across board for all of these products. Cote d'Ivoire is doing almost 2 million metric tons. Ghana is doing almost 1 million metric tons. But you see, for them, that is their oil. So that's what they focus on. And when there was that crash in cocoa prices, then it affected them. You know, the African Development Bank had to come up with almost $1 billion loan to give them, to rescue them. But in Nigeria, again, as the GMD said, look, we have so much, and we're working with the states, and I said, look, identify at least one product for us in your state that we can push. And many things are already happening all across states. So that would take me to almost another 4 hours of discussion if we start that. But needless to say, the presentation will be shared, and an email were available for questions and to initiate you better on this. Some of the ongoing government projects we're doing under the National Committee on Export Promotion is we're looking at domestic export warehouse aggregation centers all across the country, which we're working with of course, NEXIM, NEBSA, Nigerian Quarantine Service, SON, and NXP. Now, under the Zero Plan, we have proposed, I remember talking to the president of AfriExim when I was presenting the Zero Oil Plan, because I presented to him, I presented to African Development Bank as well. And I said we must establish an export trading company. Now, the job of that trading company is that we be able to encourage outgrowers, producers, everybody to produce their goods, knowing that there's a company that will buy it. We buy, we store, and then we sell out. And I'm happy to announce that the AfriExim Bank just last week have contacted us. Nigeria is one of the key pilot programs they want to use for this. So we're going to set up all the legal background for this. I'm sure Zenith Bank, of course, will be involved, being a very good partner to AfriExim, where CBN is also under the development finance department, working on anchor borrower program for exporters through this funding, like they have done for specifically for rice. We say, look, let's expand it. Let's do an anchor borrower program for exporters, so we can support major off-takers and boost production. That's the only way you can do it. We're working on a lot of capacity building and quality and standards in this selected value chain. There's my director of product who is available here, and he will answer particularly on the beans issue that we had, and what we're doing to try and resolve it. But I make bold to say I know it's a non-tariff barrier that EU imposed on us because we didn't sign the EPA. These are some of the games that go on in export, in trade and trade promotion. Now, we facilitate product certifications. We have a lot of training. We're partner with many of these technical partners. We do a lot of work with UNIDO, for example, the CBI in the Netherlands, GIZ, and ECOWAS as well, the Global Gap, ISO trainings, and where those are going on for many of our exporters. So we're particularly trying to key on that 100% organic certification we can get for our exporters. So because we know many of our products indeed are organic, but you need the certification. The GMD mentioned the African Continental Free Trade Area. That's why I said, it has made my presentation easy. Is really a co-CEO of NEPC, but I know Ian and Jim won't allow me to be a co-CEO of Zenith. So it's a market of 1.2 billion people, a combined GDP of 3 trillion, and huge potential for Nigeria. But like I was at a forum, National Assembly, with the CG of the customs, And he made a statement there that, look, we're going into African free continental trade. We're going to have less money from the customs. Why? Because we have signed into a free trade area. And it looked like it was missed in the meeting. So when I got up to speak, I had to address that look, listen to what the CG is saying. The role of the customs is really to be a trade facilitation agent rather than what we have turned them into, that a revenue generating agency. And it's good. That's because your economy was based on imports. But when you are going into a free trade agreement area, when all the things are going to come free of taxes, free of levies, then you have a problem. So if you are not changing your whole economy, to boost production, boost productivity, so you can have goods, you can export out to the world and Africa, then it becomes a problem. So we are saying, yes, we are in this AFCTA. We need to boost our SMEs, MSMEs, large factories, so we can dominate Africa rather than become a dumping ground. Because you see, all these countries are going to be doing things, and the market they're going to be looking for is Nigeria. That's the market they want to get into. So if we're not ready, and it's going to be a big problem. We must leverage on e-commerce. When you look at, you get on social media, most of our top sellers in Africa are Nigerians on social media platform, and they're doing well. We recently had an agreement with UPS to support the movement of their goods. They're helping us logistics, air freighting, and warehousing needs, so we can get use their leverage to work on the SMEs, so we can get our goods out there. We are working with British Standards Institute. We are training many of our SMEs on HACCP certification, and you can see some of them are being retailed in Tesco, Sainsbury. We are able to resume the export of hibiscus to Mexico after 3 years. We had a problem with them, but we're doing that. And one thing I must mention is the development of new ethnic products for export, which is very important. Some of the new products that are coming out that the world is looking for: black soap, mushroom, sunset flower. No, these are not even in our zero oil plan, but these are things that are coming up. The NEPC were the winner of the WTPO 2018 award. We're very proud of that. It's the International Trade Center in Geneva that is the mothership of all trade promotion agencies in the world, and we won that. Our job is to make the NEPC very client-centric. So work with the clients, and we have this one pager for our strategy, so you know what we are doing immediately on the one page, and that is it. So I must thank you all for listening. I know we waiting for all the questions and everything we can do. Let me thank Zenith Bank again for this very important seminar that they have organized. Thank you. And let me thank Henry, the host, as well, for being a very good compare. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Segun Awolowo. Can we appreciate him? Can we appreciate a very powerful presentation? This is a digital applause. I'm sure it's resonating.
Just a minute, let me acknowledge Segun very especially.
Okay, thank you.
Segun, and to let him know that I have wholeheartedly accepted my appointment with him as a co-CEO. But unfortunately, Segun, because of regulation, I'm not able to reciprocate.
Oh my God.
However, you can trust and rely on me to execute your mandate as far as this initiative is concerned.
Thank you.
Whenever and at any time. It's a great job you are doing for the country, but certainly with us working together, we will get there. We will get there. Thank you very much for always being there. It's just a phone call. We don't go through any protocol, getting Segun, getting Misra, getting CBN. It's a question of when are you ready? Just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beniza, for that good gesture. And once again, I'd like to thank Mr. Segun Awolowo for your wonderful presentation, very incisive and straight to the point. And also you kept to the time. I appreciate that very much. Let me, on behalf of the management of Zenith Bank, also congratulate NEPC for winning the WTPO Award 2018. It's also a testament to the great job you're doing. Let's appreciate them for that award. Congratulations, NEPC, led by Segun Awolowo. We always say in Zenith that the reward for hard work is more work. So we expect more awards coming to you along those lines. Because when you win awards, it means we are fixing our export market in Nigeria. Sesame seeds, you said, has grown 100%, from 2016 to pre-COVID. And I believe we're also working to grow the other exportable products. Let me also identify the giant improvement you made when you said you're working on the domestic export warehousing scheme, which is the export aggregation scheme. I believe that will help a lot in pushing exportable products quickly out of our markets. And I think that's a good one. I will encourage that we solidify that aspect of it. I also noticed that you're having the NACO shed, the Nigerian Aviation Handling Company shed, which is also good for providing the export base for people. And I think you're doing a great job in NEPC, and we'd like to appreciate you so very much. One of the comments on the platform was to the extent that they try to compare that in near Ghana, you have the Ghanaian tubers of yam, accepted and sold in Canada and in the US. But those from Nigeria are not in those markets because of poor packaging. So that is some feedback you need to take home and see how, that's where the issues of SON, standards, quality, packaging. When you are going to the international market, you have to go there with the best standards. So that is some feedback we need to take home to see how we can push some of those products. But I believe there will be more comments and questions coming to you after the other presenters have presented their program. So thank you, Mr. Awolowo, for your paper. Thank you so very much. The next presenter will be Mr. Aliyu Abdulhamid. He's the MD CEO of NISA, and he'll be talking to us for about 20 minutes. Please, let's appreciate Mr. Abdulhamid as he takes over the platform. Mr. Abdulhamid, sir.
Thank you very much for having me, and good morning, everyone. A special thank you to my brother, the Group Managing Director of Zenith Bank, Mr. Ebenezer. My colleague and neighbor just down the road, Segun, even though we never found time to kind of stretch my hand out of my window into his office to do a handshake, but I'm sure spiritually we are connecting every day. He is just living down the road from me. And my colleague in Central Bank, Dr. Naji, we appreciate your presentation. We are happy to hear all the possibilities available. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to be here. And it's interesting in this seminar, the congruence of complementary efforts that I can see. We have the Central Bank of Nigeria, represented by Dr. Naji, Trade and Exchange, talking a lot about the windows of possibilities available, especially the development finance window and the trade and exchange policy support of the Central Bank of Nigeria on the one hand. We have Zenith Bank, which is the champion of zero to hero, which is another possibility with funds available for all SMEs that need that kind of support. And we have Segun, who is the owner of the policy space of export, providing all the support that is required to both the financiers, the exporters, and others. Then we have NASL, which provides the de-risking and the guarantee mechanism to ensure that Ebenezer and Zenith are comfortable enough to release the money to the SMEs. And finally, we have the SMEs for whom this seminar, I'm sure, they are the main target. So ladies and gentlemen, you're all welcome. Let me give a high-level synopsis of my presentation by saying that what NASL is going to present here is essentially taking us back to the base on how to ensure that there is supply chain security of all these exportable agricultural commodities we just mentioned for the exporters. Because one thing is clear, the commodities have to be there. They have to be in such a condition and they have to be delivered in such an efficient logistics manner that the exporters can be able to do business successfully. But to do that, the entire value chain has to be de-risked, from the input supply to the primary producers, to the midstream logistics service providers, all the way to the exporters. There has to be a de-risking and efficient mechanism that can enable the financiers like Zenith Bank to comfortably open their balance sheet and put the money in. It's not as simple as it sounds. Yes, the money is there. Yes, the market is there. But between the soil, the farm, and a Papa pot, there is a whole new universe of stories. This system has to be looked into in detail. And that is essentially what my presentation is all about. It's a very simple presentation that has only a table of content of 3 items. I don't know. Is it moving at your own end?
Yes.
We can see your presentation.
All right, great. So I don't want to label you too much with the with the need for to diversify our export activities. As you can see from this table, a lot has been said about it. The trend from 2017 to 2019, the trade balance available, not much for a country of our size, and that calls for the need for non-oil export to move up drastically. We all know what is happening with the story of oil. We all know that countries like the UK are saying that by 2030, most of their vehicles will run off rechargeable batteries. And that is the trend that is being taken globally. So what is going to happen to our oil reserve? What is going to happen to our economy that is based on oil export? It's time now we all move from being zero to heroes according to Nexi. So the structure is what it is. And oil accounts for 7% of our exports. Non-oil exports, you can see in the gray bar there, not much to write home about. And for us that rely on crude oil to earn majority of our foreign exchange, you can see from this graph what has happened just before the onset of COVID and what has COVID done to us in terms of earnings from crude oil. In addition to COVID, there's always been this spat between OPEC and non-OPEC countries, whereby oil price went down to as low as $7 when you combine with COVID. And we don't foresee a future that can be as rosy as it was some years back in terms of oil. It's time we wake up and shift our focus to non-oil exports. Let me now, as a matter of enlightened self-interest, move to agriculture as the main source of non-oil export commodities. Already we know agriculture contributes 25% to our GDP. But despite this contribution of 25%, it still accounts for only 11% of our non-oil exports in 2019. And as the largest, we believe that as the largest contributor to our GDP, if we combine our forces and unlock the potential of agricultural export, we can be exactly where Shogun wants us to be, whereby we catch up with oil or even exceed oil. That is our dream. So doing a deep dive into the agricultural segment of the non-oil export profile, we need to build the agricultural export profile. So to do that, we have to look at what is our position vis-a-vis the key commodities that are globally in demand. As you can see from this graph, we are number 3 when it comes to cashew exports. We are number 4 when it comes to sesame export. But yet, we have almost a limitless market opportunity for us to exploit. And again, I like to go back to what Segun has been saying, because he painted for us the big picture, the possibilities available. One of them is the rapid population growth, both regionally in Africa as well as globally. And there's also changing taste to certain commodities. For example, it's interesting to know that most of the colorants now being used in pharmaceuticals, in the wine industry across the world, they have moved from artificial colorants to hibiscus as coloring agents. And not only that, hibiscus is a natural ingredient, it's full of antioxidants, and there's a lot of demand for it in Europe as well as in America. Now, we also know that we have a $5 trillion global food industry. The spat between US and China appears not to be ending. Therein lies some opportunity for us to supplant some opportunities. And there's the African Continental Free Trade Area Act. So these are the broad spectrum of opportunities we have ahead of us. Now, to maximize this agricultural sector, in order to support the export challenges and opportunities that we have, certain fundamental elements must be addressed. We have to look at each commodity we are talking about, whether it is cashew or sesame or cocoa. Those 4 key commodities, we have to disaggregate them and break them down into their component parts, whereby all the SME agri-businesses involved can be isolated, can be analyzed, can be mapped to their opportunities, so that it's easier for Zenith Bank financing to see the businesses as they are. It really does not make risk management sense to treat a commodity as if it's a holistic or a single business. No, every single commodity has this logic with it. The pre-upstream logic, as you can see on my screen, the upstream logic, the midstream, and the downstream logic. All the verticals are businesses involved. Sometimes you could see a business involved integrated across the streams, but largely you see individual businesses playing in each segment of the value chain. If we can be able to isolate, analyze, and present each business, but by creating handshake among them, we can be able to have clarity to give comfort to the owners of finance to put their money in. And underlining all of them, we also have to look at compliance with grace and standards. And I'm happy, again, NEPC has gone very far with that by telling us with their collaboration with the British Standard Institute. Now, in section 2, I would like to do a deep dive to show the key elements, the holistic and sustainable approach that NASAL has adopted to support any key commodity value chain. This is of interest to the SMEs that are listening to this seminar. Just a second, I think it's all mixed up on my screen. I don't know whether it's very clear on your screen. So how does NASAL approach the de-risking activities it does for each commodity value chain? First of all, I don't know, is it all mixed up on, can you see it, or is it clear?
Yes, you can go on. You are very clear. We can have your.
Okay, fine. There are 3 key elements through which we approach any commodity value chain in terms of making it easy for banks to finance. We break up each commodity according to its value chain logic, like I said earlier, pre-upstream, upstream, midstream, and downstream. Under the agricultural value chain integration model we have, we will ensure that all activities along these streams have a financing logic. 2, we ensure that we achieve reduced time to market. We also ensure that the businesses that are supported along each stream have their competitiveness increased. And we also ensure that lower costs are achieved. And then we ensure that there is a variety of choices available to the market. When you do that, you then approach how do you get financing for those streams of activities. What NASAL does is to do a lot of back-end support to each of those businesses. We provide technical assistance in terms of capacity building, training, a lot of things to ensure that when you go to Zenith, almost all their requirements are pre-met. 2, in some cases, what NASAL does is also to do a direct investment as a proof of concept for any key segment of the value chain we believe can work, so that we kind of present a food is ready scenario to the banks with numbers and everything. On top of that, we provide guarantees for any key project we feel is de-risked. And then we support it with market incentives. All these 4 activities, we call them under blended finance approach, are supposed to enable a bank like Zenith to feel comfortable enough to leverage their balance sheet to lend the money. On top of that, in the 3rd segment, NASAL provides robust risk management framework, including index-based insurance, project monitoring, reporting and remediation across the country in all the states, field information and communication technology-based mapping and monitoring capabilities. We also have a whole unit called loan management, repayment and repayment and recovery unit in NASAL to help ensure that every credit given to a customer, we assist the bank to ensure that repayment happens and recovery happens. So next, all these models are not standalone. They are all encapsulated within what we call our mapping to markets strategy. Under the mapping to markets, what we have done is to ensure that every segment has a handshake with the segment before it or after it. As you can see from this screen, every commodity would have to have a quality research and new technology innovation. For example, seed is technology. There has to be the latest seed, the latest quality of variety of seed to be done. Inputs have to be standard, like fertilizer, like crop protection, and so on and so forth. Mechanization has to be there on demand. This fits into the primary production segment. And then under that, the upstream, you need to ensure you have efficient primary production, efficient harvesting, efficient primary processing, primary transport, and primary storage. Going to midstream, you can do primary value added, because I think the direction should be to ensure that we do primary value added before you export. You need to have efficient logistics, transport, and warehouse, and you need to have wholesale. Then you can then service the export market. Now, all these are individual businesses that are being provided. We need to isolate those businesses, create a handshake between them so that you can see end-to-end for each commodity value chain, the beginning, the middle, and the end. And that is the fixing of the value chain. Next, if you are to go further down, if you look at every pre-upstream activity, there is no commodity, whether it's sesame, cashew, cocoa, or anything in the agricultural sector that does not need mechanization. Therefore, what NASAL has done is to develop what we call the mechanization financing framework, whereby farmers don't have to own the equipment on their own. All these equipment services, irrigation services, mechanization services, harvesting services, we have created a layer of service providers that we can use those equipment as collateral, get a bank like Zenith to finance those, and then map them to all the producers to provide service, fee for service. Typically, on a 2.5-year tenure period, you'll find that most of this equipment will have paid for themselves, and then they become permanently owned by the service providers. You don't burden the producers with owning equipment, irrigation equipment, or tractor equipment, or anything of the sort. Service providers will sell the services, and then we create a business model for them. The same thing we are doing for fertilizer financing. All those fertilizer dealers that are available in the country under Notore, under Candel, under others, we have already developed a model whereby we map them to farmers under our geo-cooperatives. They take financing, we track their delivery, we track their sales, we make sure that sales happen and the money goes back to the bank. We're also developing a model for seeds and pesticides financing. Now, all these financing mechanisms are supposed to support farmers that have been organized under what we call the geo-cooperative model. And the geo-cooperative model says basically that when farmers are scattered, operating on 0.3, 0.1, 0.2, 0.5, or even 1 hectare, the optimization required to enable financial income will not be there. There is no scale. So we created the geo-cooperative model where we ask Nigerian farmers that naturally, when you fly over these farms and you look out of the window of your plane, you will see that these smallholder farmers are actually aggregated by nature. But when you go down at the field level, you see a little plot doing cocoyam here, another one doing yam here, another one doing sesame there, another one doing maize. When under the same microclimate, under the same soil, in the same area, they can all be socially engineered to produce a certain key commodity for a certain off-taker at a certain specification of quality, you know, and that can be done efficiently. And it's easier for me to convince Zenith Bank to raise a financing for a ticket size of 100 million naira, 150 million naira 200 million naira for geo-cooperatives that have governance, they have leadership, they have structure, than for me to ask Zenith Bank to release 150,000, 200,000, 130,000 to a remote farmer somewhere in the corner of Nigeria. It doesn't make sense. It's full of risk. I cannot even be able to put my risk behind that kind of scenario. That is why we have put out this initiative, whereby from 10 hectares as a group, you can move to 50 hectares as a group, to 250 hectares and beyond. On those ticket sizes for any of the exportable commodities, we are ready to work with the farmers to organize them, structure them, create governance for them, and create financing tickets around those commodities. These are things we can do at our own cost. If you go to the next slide, you will see exactly what we mean when we talk about creating geo-cooperatives for farmers. On the left side of the screen, you can see the business as usual, how farmers are scattered on their production fields. You can see in the middle how organized they can be under geo-cooperatives. Once they are under geo, it's easy for us to primarily aggregate all their produce, to do primary transportation out of the farm to stop post-harvest losses, and to do primary storage. And therefore, apart from the agro-geo-cooperatives, we have also created what we call trading geo-cooperatives, so that at the farm gate, we are going to work with all these local traders at the local government level that are relying on the township license buying agents that do poverty kind of pricing regime with them. And they rely on that Alhaji in the city to give them money at a very, very low margin or even non-existent margin to go and transfer that poverty price to the farmers. For us, that is not good enough. If I make Zenith Bank to finance my farmers under geo-cooperative, I want them to get end market pricing as much as possible. The only way I can do that is to create a trading geo-cooperative as a middle layer between the markets and these farmers. And these trading geo-cooperatives are individual, small traders that you can find them in every local government. But unfortunately, they don't have sufficient capacity in terms of financing and organization to be able to do offtake at scale. So we are working with them at local government level to organize them, create a financing ticket for them, create governance for them, de-risk them, and then we package them and approach a bank, and then we log them into a bank, we log them to our geo-cooperative and create virtual financing for them, whereby as they are taking this produce out of the farms and they are transmitting down to the end market, all these transactions can happen virtually from account to account. And we're already having meetings with most of these traders, and they seem to like this model. When it is matured out, I'm sure we're going to work with Zenith Bank as the pilot bank to be able to see how these trading geocops can be financed. An outcome of our initial pilot of the geocoop, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we modeled that geocoop in May this year. We put out the pilot advert, and because of the enthusiasm of the public and the farmers, you can see the result we got out of the pilot itself. We have already structured about 517,000 hectares. That is huge by any standard. We have already got expression of interest from 2,297 geo-cooperatives, and they're already being formed. We have got 347,000 farmers organized with KYC, that you know your customer data, with know your farm data, know your leader data, and we have linked up with NIPS, whereby if you put a BVN number of a farmer under our model, it will not only link up with NIPS to see the status of his BVN and whether he's even owing, we have also linked up with the credit bureaus so that you can see whether the farmer is owing or not. So basically, the kind of farmers we are bringing to Zenith Bank, for example, are already pre-cleaned, pre-structured, and physically identifiable farms and farmers. And beyond land-based geo-cooperatives, we're also creating what we call virtual geo-cooperatives for those production entities that cannot be brought together physically. For example, poultry houses, they are where they are. Fish ponds, they are where they are. There's no way you can pull them together physically. So what we did is to create what we call virtual geo-cooperatives on township basis. If you take, for example, Gwagwalada, all the poultry houses in Gwagwalada, based on the social engineering aggregation, we can virtually cooperate them, put them on a map with even a drop point with a latitude, longitude location for each poultry house. And then they have a common governance, president, vice president, director of finance. That way we can say all the poultry farmers in Gwagwalada, they are one body, they're under one governance. This is their financing requirement. This is their input requirement. And these are their off-takers. That way you see scale. That way you can be able to convince a bank to open their balance sheet and finance at scale, not at micro level. And as you can see, we have a lot of partners that have been working with us in doing this geo-co-op formation, and it's continuing. This is just the pilot outing. Our target is to see how we can do 16,000 geo-co-ops, covering about 8 million farmers on 4 million hectares, producing almost 1.2 trillion naira in terms of value of grain equivalent. This is the target for NASAL in the short to medium term. And going down, if you see the map we have, you can see the graphic representation of where we have the highest concentration of applicants. As you can see, I don't know whether you are seeing on the screen, we have this bubble graph to show the sizes of the expression of interest we have got. You can see Kaduna has the highest so far, followed by Kano and going down like that. But that is the pilot stage that was concluded around June. And soon enough, we're going to release the second batch of expression of interest we get, and this map will definitely move. So like I said earlier, we have received about 100,000 applications, and we have got 2.2 million hectares organized and covered. Going further from the upstream, you move to the midstream. The midstream is where you find processing, logistics, and wholesale. What we have developed in NASAL in collaboration right now with the Federal Ministry of Trade and Investment, and I'm sure my brother Shogun will also be a key participant in this model, is what we call the Secured Agricultural Commodity Transport and Storage Corridor. We know that it takes no more than 15 agencies and sub-agencies of government to make sure there's a smooth flow of commodities from the farm gate to the ports. If we don't bring all parties together under one table, there is no way we can have efficiency of moving commodities from the rural farm area to the ports. For example, sesame. A truck moving from Jigawa State to Lagos, only God knows the number of local government checkpoints, police checkpoints, and other checkpoints that you have to stop at, pay some charges before you move on. If at all you do, you are able to move on. In some countries of Africa, I know one country, I don't know whether it's Cote d'Ivoire or somewhere, where because of the importance they attach to agricultural commodities, even if a truck carrying agricultural commodity has done some infraction on the road, what they do is to take the number of that truck and that driver and put an escort on it until it delivers. Then they will deal with the truck and the driver. So this is the kind of prioritization we need to put for the logistics company. Thank God when we did the initial outing, we invited customs, we invited road safety, we invited the Joint Task Board, we invited directors from the Ministry of Trade and Investment. Almost 15 agencies came and we had this initial outing. We presented the model, just the concept frame, to see if that happens, will that work? A lot of them, we got positive response from them. And therefore, as today, we have pushed the agenda to the Federal Ministry of Trade and Investment to be the policy owner so that we, working with other agencies under the Federal Ministry of Trade and Investment, can be able to perfect that model and ensure that agricultural commodity move under a secured corridor from the north to the south without any molestation. If there's something to be paid, let it be done digitally. In fact, in the model we have, all payments can be collected from the start point, digitally, swiped, and all agencies that need to be credited, the account will be credited with the charges. So that truck will have a sticker, it moves all the way to Lagos without harassment. The only big elephant in the room is what do we do at the ports? That is beyond my paycheck. And I think it takes a village for us to see what can we do if we deliver efficiently to the ports. Again, this is why NAPC comes in very strongly. Now, under the SAT-C model I just mentioned earlier, we are supporting it with a high-level technology support called the Agricultural Logistics 360. This is a technology platform that generates data near real time for all the activities along that corridor. Every truck moving on that corridor is tracked. Any truck that is stopped along the way, we will see it stopped. We will ask for what reason, and we'll see how long it has stopped. Any truck that loads, we will see how much it has paid as taxes for the way, and that is captured. That technology, software is being developed as we're speaking, and therefore we are asking the Federal Ministry of Agri and Trade and Investment to help support this with the policy support, with legislative action, and also facilitate interagency cooperation to ensure that this secured agricultural commodity transport and storage corridor is implemented. Finally, on the downstream segment, we want to see that all the SMEs that are involved in the downstream segment, if you are within the SME level, you are not a big time player, we are ready to work with you, to cooperate you, to de-risk you and see how can we raise sizable tickets by a group of commodity exporters under a particular bank so that we have a sizable ticket size and we can map you to our trading geo-cooperatives who are already mapped to our producer geo-cooperatives. We want to create a seamless flow from the farm through logistics to the traders, whereby, for example, Zenith Bank can sit in the middle and say, okay, we are ready to integrate all of you in our bank, provided that you follow the rules of the game. It brings a cashless transaction format. It's almost near zero cash transaction. For us, from the de-risking perspective, I don't want to give my guarantee to Zenith Bank only for me to be paying out. That means in the matter of a year or two, I'll be out of business. That is what it means. But the more I'm able to work with Zenith to de-risk the entire chain, the better for me. I can give my guarantee to Zenith, and I know I'm comfortable Zenith would get his money, and I can get my guarantee back. Almost to the end, what we did again is to integrate everything under what we call the private agribusiness investment development program. As you can see, all that I've said earlier are integrated in this slide. What you can see on this slide is the fact that to service the market, in this case, at the very top, if you cycle the export market, you need to make sure you do value-added processing so that we can retain value as much as possible in Nigeria. But to do value-added processing, you need to ensure that you produce the raw material in the first place. As you can see, NASAL is supporting about 15 commodities here under our geo-cooperative function. But to produce efficiently, ladies and gentlemen, you have got to have technology support to do proper production, proper harvesting, proper primary processing, proper transport, and proper storage. To do the production itself, you need quality seed. Before you have quality seed, in some parts of Nigeria where you need to produce these commodities, you need to have pay-as-you-go irrigation systems so that these farmers can produce at least 3 times in a year, provided you can do modular irrigation systems, not these big-scale multi-billion-dollar irrigation systems. In some cases, the processors will need to have off-grid captive power supply. And I know there are some entities that if you can put together modular processors at a site, like 20 of them doing certain metric tons per day, there are a lot of individuals that have approached me and said, if we can guarantee this cluster of processors, they can provide site and services. They can build up the site, provide water services, electricity services, even banking services. They will build up the site, provided that they get paid out of those cluster of services. These are the kind of things we are looking at. And as an example, typical example, right now we are working with the Association of Cashew Farmers and Processors Group to develop a business framework and business model and financing framework. As you can see, I think in the next couple of weeks, we are likely to finish the business modeling. As you can see from the primary producers who are harvesting the cashew nuts, the raw cashew nuts, to the processing, at least to have like processed whole nuts and split nuts, and all the way to the exports, and also probably get some derivatives out of the cashew plant. This is something we're working on. We're soon enough going to present it to the banks, particularly Zenith Bank, and see whether that business model and financing framework, which is integrated, is something they can look at, especially when we put our de-risking mechanism behind it. I'm almost done. This is just a brief story about what NASAL is and where we're coming from. I think I don't want to bore you with this one. Everyone knows the history of NASAL by now. And this is the structure of NASAL. So some of our result is that we have been able to finance to date, facilitate financing about 137.9 billion as of Q2 2020. We believe we have created up to 515,000 direct employment, and about 3 million Nigerian lives have been impacted positively. Today, we are getting a lot of overtures from other African countries to set up a similar risk-sharing facility, from Angola to Rwanda and some parts of SADC countries. We did one successfully in Togo. And I think it will be interesting to know that we're also then, by that token, doing export in services, because this is Nigeria's intellectual property that is being demanded by other African countries. So finally, my call to action is this. We need to have optimized agricultural value chains for these key export commodities. And then we need to develop bespoke agriculture financing solutions and surround those financing solutions with NASAL's de-risking tools and approaches in order to guarantee maximum returns for all the actors along the value chain. It is when these things are put together that we know we're comfortable enough to approach Zenith Bank and say, Zenith, open your balance sheet to support actors along this value chain. Therefore, I call on exporters, financiers, and investors to take advantage of the inherent opportunities and NASA's de-risking capacity to be able to get this going. So for exporters, please take advantage of all that you are hearing in this seminar. For value chain actors, take advantage of our GeoCoop, our risk guarantee, our interest drawback support. And for Zenith Bank, we want you to open the balance sheet more now in this de-risk manner, in this risk model, to see how much more we're going to support. And we are calling on Shegun as a representative of government agencies that are relevant in this to create the enabling environment that we can quickly hit the ground and then make money for Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Mr. Aliyu Abdul Hamid. Thank you so very much for what you are doing at NISAL. And thank you for a wonderful presentation. I believe you are going to have lots of response from the platform when we come to Q&A. Thank you so very much. Right, while we have been taking this course, we've had a couple of comments on the platform. And I want to encourage my fellow directors, if you be on the platform and if there are responses you can almost give immediately, it would be nice to give response to some of those comments that our participants are putting on the platform. But quite clearly, there has been a few that we can discharge very quickly. Somebody had asked, how can I get the export certificate? And the response there was that you can always go to nepc.gov.ng and you see what you need to do to get certificate for export. That should be straightforward. And somebody else said the problem exporters have is access to finance. That is why we are here. So you can always feel free to access any branch of Zenith and talk to your branch manager. And before the end of this program, we're going to also show you a number. Acha, please get that ready. A number that some of the participants can call if there's a need for follow-up arising from this program. Then some question was around which bank we collaborate with in Malaysia. Zenith Bank has correspondent banks all over the globe, and whether you're in Malaysia, Singapore, Dubai, China, wherever you are, we have collaboration, and we have accounts with various multinational banks that we can collaborate with. But with Malaysia, we are very strong with Citibank, by the way. So if you have issues around that area, we can fix it for you. Somebody in Uyo said he has some requirement. He's into cocoa, banana, and honey processing, and he will need some support. You can always walk to our Uyo branch, like I said, and discuss with your branch manager if you have an account with us. If you don't have an account with us, you can open those accounts and discuss with us. And if you need to talk to us further, the number that we provide at the end of this program, you can always call for contact with Zenith Bank. Mr. Diote spoke about, that is of Amit Foods. He talked about that NISAL should do a little more. Where we agree, we're not perfect. If we're perfect, we won't be here. So whether NISA, NAPDC, Zenith, whosoever, we all need to do more, including yourself. So those are just short answers to some inquiries on the platform. We'll still take our Q&A after the program. So thank you so very much, Mr. Aliyu Abdul Hamid, for your presentation. Thank you so much. Thanks. The next paper will be presented by...
Before the next paper,
yes.
Mr. Aliyu Abdul Hamid, my dear brother from this, made very, very fantastic presentation as usual. You know, when people talk about the fact that you hear a lot of people say there is no hope for the country, I simply laugh. Listening to him and listening to Shegun, you can tell indeed that we have round pegs in round holes. As far as export is concerned, even listening to CBN. So you can see that, yes, we have the resources to turn things around. You know, he made a lot of proposals. I remember the first time we met, what he said to me was that Zenith has done well as a corporate and institutional bank, as it were. He said, look, Ebenezer, I want us to work together. I want you to do much more, even as an export-oriented bank, promoting Nigeria export. I will de-risk anything that is your worry. You talked about your Geocaches. I want to let you know that Zenith is wholeheartedly prepared to partner with NISRA. Maybe we can incorporate NEPC, as it were. The concept is very good because it helps to de-risk it, because if we have it, like in Dennis's presentation, Dennis talked about, we are not saying we return to the era of commodity, but if we have a cluster, like an aggregation of some farmers, some exporters coming together, you know, when we stand together, the reinforcement from us holding each other makes the sum total of our strength more formidable and stronger than you standing alone. So if we have that, it's almost like a cooperative kind of thing, then we will be able to de-risk. And let it be that the risk of dealing with one-on-one is avoided. We are prepared as Zenith to work with you and NEPC if we need to execute an MOU, so that you talked about the new business model, the financing framework. Zenith will be there to provide a backend and we can work out a process. I also want to appeal to the participants. You see that we're almost hitting 2,000 participants. I would like to urge you, Acha, you can provide a means for them to register, leave your contact email addresses and phone numbers, so that all of us will begin to form the ecosystem we talk about. When we finish, I know some of you are asking for the materials. We'll be able to email the various slides to you, but more importantly, we can begin to form clusters within those of you who are attending here. We may find out that, yes, you have 2 or 3 people who belong to the same value chain with you. We want to now start creating the value chain, because this is not time to pontificate. It is really time for action. We have no time to wait. No time at all. Yeah, I was very excited about Aliu talking about how we can infuse digital technologies and capability into it. You can't beat the beauty of that, of making sure that if I'm dealing with a farmer in Medugri, and you have the next value chain person in Ibadan, we can link them up digitally so that there is transmission of information. Each person knows where each person is in the value chain, and we can build up that market. I am very, very excited about what we are taking out of this, and I want to appeal to all the participants, leave your email, leave your addresses. And, you know, I talked about stand with Zenith. I know you have relationship elsewhere, not because I'm telling you to abandon, so that you'll be part of this process. Anything we are saying here, if there's anything we are saying we are not implementing, you can challenge us. If you take it elsewhere where they are not part of this deliberation, you are likely to face some inhibition and obstacles. We come together, all of us will build our platform, so that next year we sit down and say, what did we agree to do? Did we achieve them? Are there limitations? How do we tackle them? And together, we constitute ourselves into that renaissance that will completely change and turn the story of Nigeria for greatness. Thank you.
Thank you, my MD, Ebenezer Yangu. Thank you so very much. Mr. Bamidele Ayamibo is the MD CEO of 3T Impex. I would like to welcome him to present the next paper, and he will speak for 25 minutes. Mr. Bamidele Ayamibo.
All right. Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much for having me. I would like to appreciate the management of Zenith Bank for putting this program together. One of the things I've advocated for many years in this space has been the need to create exporters. And when I heard about the Zero to Hero Export Program, for me, I think it's in the right direction, because if you check the exporters, total number of exports in Nigeria, those have registered export are in thousands, no doubt, but those that actively export every year are not up to 100, sorry, up to 1,000, actively export every year. Add all those people that do air shipment, and those who probably under the table export, maybe about 2,000 at the end of the day. I must commend the management of Zenith Bank for that initiative, Zero Hero. I think it's a very brilliant initiative to create new exporters in Nigeria. And indeed, we need to create new exporters. I also want to thank the NEPC director, I'm a CEO. Some of the initiative of NEPC, I'm a beneficiary of it actually. So for those that are listening, I probably think some of those, what some of the come to say about what is real or true, as movement of good out, especially during the COVID wars, initiative of NEPC with the FO logistics. I'm beneficiary of it. I do shout out every month, and I'm actually on that opportunity and the initiative of NEPC with the FO logistics. I want to thank everyone that's spoken, including the NISA MD. I'm also very much aware of what NISA is doing because I talked to a lot of people there thinking of how to couple what NISA is doing with export, since you are doing a lot in financing agri. Thank you very much. I'm talking about effective strategy for forex generation to finance import. One of the things we seem to have left out in the drive to export or to grow export in Nigeria is the fact that there are a group of people in this country who have a lot of cash, who have been in the business for many years, who are into importation, who are 50, 60, probably 70% ready for export, but are probably not aware of the potential they already developed. And I think bank can be in the position to help this importer realize that the fact that you have issue with foreign exchange currently because of the low export of non-oil and generation of FX should not be a problem. As a company, we have a partner in the US that we do business with in doing some certification program for trade in Nigeria, the American Institute of Extended Studies, and we don't have to worry about foreign exchange because since we do export ourselves, we just simply use our FX to pay. So when our students pay their bill for certification, we use that fund to export, and with the foreign exchange, we pay our importation of services now from the US for the certification on trade. I'm basically using an example to let us know that an importer in Nigeria should not be having issue in foreign exchange. I think there should be a serious synergy between the people that NISA is financing in agri to be able to work with exporters that have a lot of funds in Naira that will be able to do the export. So that at the end of the day, they can export and they can finance that export in a secured manner and be able to get forex back into the country. And that forex can be used to fund the import transaction. COVID has engulfed our world, no doubt, and we've had a big issue with COVID in our world about that. However, we can reverse the trend if we take all that is being suggested here, and I must also comment what this MD said just a while ago, that we should take action. So whatever is being discussed, whatever suggestion is being made, there should be action following it, so that at the end of the day, we can begin to see the result of these hours that we have spent together today. Last year, in that terms, Nigeria exported about $62.5 billion. Of course, we heard that 85% of that already was in oil. But look at import, about $55.25 billion. Now, for the export, majority is crude. That means more than 50 billion out of 60 billion is oil and gas, is crude oil. That means that we don't have enough to
Okay, are you back? I think you were out. Mr. Dele, you are muted. You are muted.
Yes, I'm back. So sorry about that. So we don't have enough to fund. And what you see at the end of the day is that because of the issue of foreign exchange, we have a decline in oil price. I have to screenshot this when I saw it on Bloomberg and BBC show it. The fact that oil price went below zero. That was unprecedented in the history of our country. Oil price going below zero. And of course, you can see also because of the fact that this red dot you can see are different oil vessels in different parts of the world. Around April, May, they are unable to deliver the goods. They became solid. they were being used as storage facility to store those crude because nobody was buying. And of course, you can also see that CBN has largely been the contributor to the exchange market. So what's the proposal? What I'm proposing is importer need to come into this space. We need to encourage the importer and support them. Now, the importer already have funds. What they need and the bank will need to do, which I'll be suggesting later on, is support services, which is why the idea of zero to export or zero become a very, very brilliant idea on the part of the bank. Before now, in minimizing the foreign exchange risk, we do forward contract, we do foreign currency future, we do foreign currency option, and maintaining foreign currency account. But we need to now, you can only use this option to mitigate the challenge of foreign exchange when there is forex. We are just hedging against the changes in the forex rate. But we need to begin to export services, export product, and export our ideas. And in doing that, there's need for preparation, getting ready for the export, doing your analysis, and I'll talk about that shortly, negotiating with an importer, with an exporter as an importer, executing the export, receiving the proceed, and using that to effect payment. So a trader who is an importer can have an agreement with, who require payment for import of goods at a definite future date. He has his naira, but is short of 20 to 30% forex. 20% in naira terms because of the exchange rate challenges. The trader decides on the preferred option, going with exporter. Depending on the selected option, importer negotiate rate with exporter. So they have an agreement on at what rate will I get this. The trader pay naira fund to fund the export project or to advance fund to the exporter ahead of receipt of export proceeds. Upon receipt of the export proceeds from abroad, the account of a trader is credited with the agreed rate, and the trader uses the forex to receive, via export proceeds to effect payment for import transaction. So instead of having naira stack up in the bank, and this naira stack up in the bank were to be used to fund import transaction, to purchase forex, and the forex are coming in trickles over a period of 6 months, even a year, why don't we begin to work on this kind of arrangement? This may have challenges: knowledge gap, increased cost, risk of non-payment, risk of export business, fear of failure, and diversion of funds. You know, the interesting thing is that those risks can be mitigated. Those risks can be mitigated. I also want to talk about the concept of assignment of proceeds. And the idea is that as an exporter, I'm exporting out of Nigeria, and I'm assigning my proceeds to someone who has funded my export transaction, who has either wholly fund or provide an equity to fund the export transaction, who has either wholly fund or provide an equity to fund the export transaction. In this arrangement, you have the assignor, the exporter, you have the assignee, the trader, the importer, and you have the bank. So the fund comes into the bank and is assigned to the exporter, but they have had an agreement, an irrevocable assignment of proceeds already signed. With an irrevocable assignment of proceeds, is basically saying that this importer, when the process is Form M, which is an eligible transaction, this fund, when it comes, can be used for that Form M, because this importer provided the naira that was used to fund this particular export transaction. And like I said, you can have issue of phantom shipment, revised instruction, fraudulent buyers, substandard goods, incomplete goods, bank insolvency, and buyer insolvency. But like I said, you know, the beauty of trade is that every risk can be anticipated and mitigated, because trade is like building a house. It's like building a house. It's like building blocks. So if you have built it before, then you can envisage what the risks are, and you can significantly mitigate those. You can significantly mitigate those risks. So in doing this, the importer can consider an indirect export funding. An indirect export funding. An indirect export funding will involve doing a pre-shipment funding or a post-shipment funding. In post-shipment funding, you can do invoice discounting. You can discount the invoice of the exporter. You can factor the invoice. You can do acceptance credit. There are options that can be explored. And this can be midwife by the bank, where the bank is helping to ensure the importer, because the bank is funding the importer anyway, and the bank is helping to ensure this transaction sail through, so that the transaction the bank has funded eventually does not lead to a loss. So it can be pre-export or post-export. On the pre-export side, you can have the full funding option or the equity funding option. Full funding option means the exporter is fully funding that export transaction. In the equity funding, the exporter is combining fund with the importer is combining fund with the exporter to be able to fund the export transaction. Now, in full funding option, the exporter, if the importer is exposed to all the risks, it's not the one doing the export. The exporter is the one doing the export. The exporter has assigned proceed to him. But in equity, he and the exporter are the one providing the fund, and the exporter is still doing the transaction. But the last option I'll be talking about is a situation where the importer himself acquired the necessary skill, which is why it comes up for the Zero to Hero program of Zenith Bank. The importer acquired the skill. By the way, the importer already understands a lot of issue with trade transaction. Documentation issue, they are familiar with it. Contract agreement, they are familiar with it. So most of the issues they have to deal with really are more in the product issue, logistic issue locally. Even the payment issue, they are familiar with it because they already use letter of credit for their import transaction. In both cases, the attraction for the trader, the importer, is that he is able to get foreign exchange to fund import transaction, and this also comes at a cheaper rate when compared to the prevailing market rate. When compared to the prevailing market rate, the agreement between them allows the trader to enjoy about 10 to 30, or even 40, sometimes even 50% reduction in the prevailing exchange rate on the day of payment. So the trader or importer need forex to pay for import of goods at a definite future date. The trader has fund up to the tune of 10 to 30% lower than the prevailing market rate. The trader source for partners with credible we are credible exporter that they can fully fund or partly fund. The exporter's bank and trader, the exporter and trader sign an agreement, an irrevocable assignment of proceeds. This is very important. And the concept of assignment of proceeds is entrenched in the Uniform Custom Practice, UCP 600, that as an exporter I can assign my proceeds, even though in Nigerian environment, this fund, when it comes in, can only be used for eligible transaction because the bank is aware of it already. It can easily be used for that eligible transaction because it's a Form M weighting, which is where the bank involvement becomes extremely important. The trader advance fund in Naira to an exporter to fund the export project, and the exporter ship the goods. Upon receipt of the export proceeds from abroad, the account of the trader is credited with the foreign exchange as agreed, and the trader used the forex received via export proceeds to effect payment for import transaction. Now, so how do an importer protect himself in this arrangement? The importer can, if the importer don't want to be involved in export, want to make fund available, he can demand for an advance payment guarantee. He can demand for an advance payment guarantee to ensure that the fund being provided is secure. And that way he ensure that all effort being made is not wasted, having waited for months to be able to get the foreign exchange. Talking about the direct export funding, this option, this is the option that involves getting into actual exportation of different items. Do you know some importers already import raw materials? They are manufacturing it. And I was talking to a banker recently, and he was telling me that there's a company in this country who the distributor already exports their product. The distributor already export their product. They are not thinking of export, and AFCFTA is around the corner. AFCFTA should have taken up July 1, now extended to January 1 because of the COVID situation. By January 1, AFCFTA is going to take shape, and National Action Committee is working very hard to ensure Nigeria ratify and be able to become part of that. Now, this company can begin to export this product, not just to European market, not just to American market, not just to Asian market, to the African market. And Nexim is working on a C-Link project. Nexim is working on a C-Link project that will ensure that shipment can be done within the African continent. Before now, if you are doing shipment by sea in Africa, sometimes you go to Europe and then back to Africa. But now that can be avoided completely. That can be prevented completely. And the shipment can be done in a way that within Africa, the vessel does not have to go somewhere else. It can be moving from location to location within Africa. And I'm hoping that this will take up before the end of the year, because Nexim is working hard on that, but COVID also has slowed that down. So this importer already can either decide to go into commodity. I know of a company who decide to train their staff and they begin to export commodities to generate foreign exchange, to be able to fund their import transaction. And you know what that does for an importer? It makes them to create a sustainable competitive advantage over competition, because now they can get forex at the cheaper rate, they can export competitively, and they can import competitively, and they can take a better and larger market share in the market. Trader who need forex has the highest control in exporting himself over the proceeds and on the rate also. The drawback of this option is that the trader needs to learn how to handle the challenges of export business, which I think the Zero to Hero program can help to solve. The importer might need to change his business model. Do you know that under the ETLS scheme, ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme, under the ETLS scheme, an exporter can actually export to West Africa duty-free. So imagine a company who already imports CKD in Nigeria, completely knocked down item. They can assemble that product in Nigeria and begin to export it to other African countries or add a little value, because if your product have 60% raw material from West Africa, or your product have about 30% value addition, or your product involve a substantial change in the tariff heading during processing, that product will be eligible for duty-free access in ECOWAS. Same for AFCFTA. That means an importer will be able to export with a lower duty rate, create job for Nigerian bank to assemble, create job for Nigerian in assembling the product that is brought in CKD, and become eligible to export to West Africa, because you are not allowed to export imported items, but you can export imported items that have had value addition, substantial value addition, and is able to receive export proceed in USD and be able to fund his import transaction. So this seller is able to get sales contract to supply product abroad. The seller ship the goods and present document for payment based on the payment method agreed. The buyer's bank abroad effect payment on the shipment upon receipt of document. The seller's bank receive fund and credit the account of the seller with the export proceed of Forex, and upon receipt of export proceed, the importer can use it to fund his import transaction. So that means at the end of COVID, or at the end of the recession, at the end of the challenges, this business can continue. There are businesses in Nigeria today that the fact that they are able to export along with import is what is making them to be able to survive. What is making them to be able to survive. As I round off, how do we participate? Either as an individual, as an importer, or even as the bank. You know, when you think of import and export, there are active exporters and there are passive exporters. By passive exporter, I mean export investor. Now, this export investor is what I meant when I was talking about the fact that the person is doing full funding or equity funding of an export transaction. Full funding or equity funding of an export transaction is basically acting as an export investor. And then we need export professionals. We need export professionals. Last time Zenith did this program, I was on the panel in Civic Center, and Lekenburg was there. Now we're partnering with Lekenburg in the US. Lekenburg is a trade lawyer in the US, and they are already working to do exactly what I'm proposing here, to be export professional, solving problem for Nigerian exporters in the export market, especially when it has to do with quality issues or payment when the buyer is trying to be smart. Active exporter, we have the product exporter and the service exporter. Service exporter is a big deal. That's the mention I'm talking about by the CEO of NEPC, the fact that it's an area to go. It's something we must do something about, and a lot is being done talked about it already. And service exporter is one of the areas of AFCFTA, by the way. It's not just trading goods, it involves trading services. And one brilliant thing about AFCFTA is that it has a dispute resolution mechanism. Maybe that will have prevented us from closing our border. We'll have probably be able to resolve the dispute we are having with Benin Republic and other neighboring countries under ETLS, but ETLS is deficient of that particular provision. But AFCFTA have a dispute resolution mechanism to ensure that when there are issues, it can easily be resolved, and there's a channel to get that done. The product exporter exports commodity and also manufacture goods. But I would like to recommend that we really do something about moving towards manufacture goods. You know why? Under the AFCFTA, major export of Nigeria to Africa, and about 12% of our exports go to Africa. So Africa is actually manufactured goods. We have few commodity export to Africa. So we must develop that value-added manufactured good, either in the secondary part or in tertiary, but value-added, which is going to create a job locally. Also talking about the service we render support services to exporters. Export market advisory, export product advisory, export pricing advisory, export contract advisory, export paperwork advisory, and export finance advisory. Now, my recommendation to the bank, especially with respect to the Zero to Hero program, we need to capture 5 critical areas. We call it the challenges of export customers: product issues, pricing issues, payment issues, purchasers issue, paperwork issue. Product issue has to do with quality issues, product to export, valuation of the product, and quality issue. Pricing has to do with how much, what are the cost elements, and how much do we price. Payment has to do with securing payment and securing financing. And purchase has to do with contract and also getting the market abroad. And then paperwork. Paperwork and payment, the bank already do that to a large extent because you already do the pre-export documentation and probably to some extent the post-export documentation, but probably not much is being done about contract, analyzing contract, advising customer on the contract before you go ahead to do it. Even though they're not asking for financing, asking for financing, the bank will advise because you will tell them what you will accept. But if you're not asking for financing, most likely the bank is not going to be aware of it. In respect of this, I recommend the bank have emerging trade support services. Emerging export trade support services. What are the emerging export trade support services? Export product information service, export pricing information service, export finance products, export contract information service, and export documentation service. These are services that the bank can use to lift those zero-level incompetence for export to hero-level incompetence for export by rendering these support services to them, such that you have branch champions who anybody that work into any of your branch in all the parts of the country can talk to at any point in time. And to do this, of course, there is need for training, personal development, training, and practice. A number of them will come based on practice. So working with people in the head office who are already into trade, together with people in the field, that kind of synergy at the branch level, at the zonal level, at the regional level, at the bank-wide level, to ensure that the people eventually, not just train, begin to put this into practice and be able to solve this problem. And also, I mean, we have actually an e-learning program that also the bank can latch on to in respect of this. As I close, because one of the major challenges is actually capacity, I will also recommend the need for capacity building. We're in partnership with the American Institute of Extended Study for Diploma in Export Business Management and Diploma in Export Trade Finance. The trade finance is for the banker who are giving the fund, the management is for the exporter who want to go into the export business. Lastly, in order to be able to solve the impact of COVID-19 on international trade in Nigeria, the importer and exporter together with the bank must work together in a symbiotic relationship in order to be able to generate funding to grow the export volume of non-oil export in Nigeria, foreign exchange to reduce pressure on that, foreign exchange to pay import bill, foreign exchange to pay import of services, and funding to grow non-oil export sector and thereby diversifying the Nigerian export sector. Thank you very much.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm literally applauding this presentation by Bamidele Ayemibo. Thank you so very much. I like your 5 challenges that you threw out at toward the end of your presentation. I believe product information, export product pricing, export finance services, export contract services, and export documentation and paperwork. These are areas that all the participants will find very useful in collaboration with Zenith Bank. And 3T Impulse is a great partner of Zenith, and we thank Bamidele for your partnership and for your very passionate presentation. Thank you so very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, so for time, we'll probably move very quickly. Like we said, you can put your comments or your questions on the chat box at the end of the presentations. We will quickly answer a lot of them. Let me invite Mr. Idris Mamukuyemi, who is the MD CEO of Afri Export Nigeria Limited, to spend the next 10-15 minutes with us. 10-15 minutes, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Henry. Yeah, first and foremost, I want to thank Zenith Bank for enabling this platform. The importance of this event at this time, for what I've listened to, cannot be overemphasized because pandemic requires smart response in export trading. So I'll be speaking on contactless exports penetrating international markets during the COVID-19. And I will be taking much of our time, so I have a limited time to spend. I love to appreciate the MD CEO of Nigeria Export Promotion Council, Mr. Shegun Awolowo, the MD NESA, Mr. Aliyu, and Dr. Nena. So the Afri-Exporter has been securing international contracts for Nigerian products for more than a decade now, and we'll be throwing this out on what we've been doing in the past. Practical experience that we're going to be discussing here. So about Afri-Exporter, we have a digital platform that connects both Nigerian suppliers to other regional buyers in Africa, in West Africa, and to also international markets. And we have afriexporter.com, we have Afri-Exporter Academy, which is a partnership with EBSI Export Academy to train people on export. We also have Afri-Exporter Magazine. We do International Expo every year to make both exporters and importers around the world. This year we'll be having the third edition, which has come up with contactless agribusiness, integrating regional cross-border and international trade. So contactless exports, like I said, we'll be doing this for a few years now. Securing contracts, getting buyers for local suppliers in Nigeria. That has been our strength, and this has been done even during the COVID-19. We can boldly tell you that we've exported so many goods during this COVID-19 through our clients. Then in contactless exports, we look at two strategies that we use, which we love to share with everyone. We look at the digital strategies and the third-party strategies. The digital strategies, we look at the social media, where we have a lot of people, many of us here are different platforms of social media, where we put up most of our information, what we do, what we sell, what we do. So most people will meet people through that platform. Then we e-commerce also. We have different types of e-commerce. We have the Alibaba, the Amazon, e-world trade. Anybody can also apply to that. You can register. E-business, this is where that e-business comprises both B2B and social media. This is where Afri-Exporter relies on to connect with international buyers. And that we don't do that alone. We also have synergies with so many partners. We build partners with so many foreign organizations ranging in different continents, both in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, and also in South America to do most of our agricultural products. Then the third strategies is we look at three types here. We look at the export sales agent, we look at the export trading and export management. Well, export sales agent, we always, like I said earlier on, that sourcing for buyers. This is our main thing. We do it in Nigeria and getting viable continent for exportable goods. Because most times, like of recent, we have about 2 contracts from 2 different countries. We have from Indonesia and Russia. And the client went over that and has been exporting. But we realized that the buyer from Indonesia buys more. As let me put it, the buyers from Indonesia buy more than those in Russia, and the price in Indonesia is always higher. So we now concentrate on Indonesia for groundnut buying. We also provide company information to most of our potential clients outside the country. Then we enter into a written sales agreement, like what Mr. Babdele has rightly said. It's always good to analyze contracts, which is also our strength at Afri-Exporter. We advise most of our exporters to go into just three types of Incoterms, which is CIF, FOB, and CFR. This limits the risk at the shore in Nigeria, at the port of Nigeria here, because if you have a contract, none of our clients has ever suffered maybe a buyer does not pay or their money being held down, because we always make sure that the contracts are being analyzed and being looked into within these three Incoterms. that will work for them, because we also have a relationship with those that secure, protect our exporters, and also those that can get our money back all over the world. We have partnered with a credit recovery agent in Tunisia. We have in Dubai. We also have in UK. So we have them regularly working with us. So, and export trading also, we also have an organization that specializes in procurement on behalf of foreign buyers. We do this a lot. We get buyers for people, but at this juncture, we always take our buyers very serious while we work on the local supplier to make sure that what they are exporting, like Mr. Bandel has already said, on products, that they should be aware, they should know much of the product logistics and specification. So for that, and we also do this under crowdfunding system. I think Mr. The NASA MD said something about putting money together, which is what we've been doing for organizations. We also do it for people that are busy working in an organization, like any salaries, and they're looking for somewhere to invest their money. We also get a contract to put people together and do a successful export for them. Then export management, this is where we also do assist those that are working and are doing other businesses, but do not have the time to go into exporting. So we create that platform to manage their export from local to international buying. So we do that for companies that do not have the time, that could not create time. So we create that department for them to help them with our local partners. Then most of the challenges that market penetration may face, I put them in two phases. I call one structural challenges and strategic challenges. Then the structural challenges is a policy-induced challenges that would happen to any country, which we have trade and economic sanctions, export and import controls, custom tariff and taxes, import and tariff quotas. That I wouldn't want to dwell much on that, as my time is so limited. But I look at strategic challenges. We have contracts, patents, and licenses, which most people who want to take their goods out of the country to get that. So every other person penetrating that market will find it difficult to do so. Internet of Things also is a big issue. I heard Mr. Ali say something about bringing automation. This is a little thing that also creates issue in making smooth penetration in the market. The breach of contracts. I remember this. We did this with most of one of our clients in 2009, where we got over 60% of the contract value to the supplier, who went ahead to do just that's worth of 60% and made his profit out of it and sent out the money and sent out the goods to the buyer. But the problem there that nobody, no other person could penetrate that market because the buyer wouldn't want to do it. Even though the buyer is interested to do that export, he might be looking for someone to pay for that, what that has cost to him. So we always look at that. There's free pricing. I'm not an economist, but I look at this predatory pricing is another angle we look at, because it's a practical experience that is actually, this is what happened within the supply chain, where a buyer, those that do not produce, that maybe buy from those that produce, will stand the risk of, when they expose their contract to the producers, those ones go ahead to maybe reduce the money by $20 or $30, which will affect the business. So in a way, the buyer might decide to go after that have come up with a lesser price for the same products and the same quality. So we also look at target segment, which I've already talked about, as regards the best continents where most of all these agricultural products can be accepted. That is another place that we should have the analysts to take onto. So as I go ahead, international credit, I've discussed this before, that international trade credit recoveries, yes, keep guidance in preparing contracts, like with Alhamdulillah, as Rand said, is also good because we look at the contracts. I've discussed this earlier on, and executing the export deals is also another part that we also look at to make sure that exports goes smoothly. Then in conclusion, I would love to advise everyone.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Idris. Yes, I think you've done well with time, and really we want to try as much as possible to keep to time. I think your points are very clear, and trust me, you carry the audience along in a very good way. So we also have your details on the platform, and your participants can always contact you. Thank you so very much, Mr. Idris.
Thank you so much
for your presentation. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, we will need to quickly move to the next presentation, and that will be by Alhaji Mohammed Abakura, the Deputy Controller of Customs. He'll be making presentation on a catalyst for growth of non-oil export business. The customs way, the ports way, we're talking about ports and all that. So please, let's welcome Alhaji Abakura to give the next paper. And we appreciate if Alhaji can congest his time within 15 minutes. It will be very much appreciated. You're welcome, Alhaji.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, please. Let me start by this. Let me start on the existing protocols. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is not Abakura. Abakura is the area controller. You are mistaken my name to the area controller. My name is Abba Adamu. I'm a deputy superintendent. I think you can see well. I'm a deputy superintendent of custom. I work under
At least we have an Abba to your name. So
can you hear me?
Yeah, we have an Abba to your name, so we are totally wrong.
We can hear you, but you will help us by increasing your volume a little. Check the volume of your system. Just increase it a little.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead with
your Can you hear me now?
It's better.
Yes, you can hear
you. Yes. I'm speaking at the instance of officer in charge of exports by name Assistant Controller Nelson Ochai, who happens to be away for a very important cost in Jos, Kuru. I'm here to present a paper on the topic, efficient port operation, a catalyst for growth of non-oil export in Nigeria. I won't bother much. Let me just, because I can see people supposed to finish by 12:30, but this is almost one. Many people are waiting. We are talking of facilitation of trade, facilitation. So let me try and summarize it at maybe 5 to 10 minutes, God willing. The NCS, as you know, the Nigerian Customs Service, is charged with the responsibility of monitoring all exports from Nigeria. That is both commercial and non-commercial export. Under the commercial export, we have the oil and gas export, and then the non-oil and gas export, or non-oil export. That is the topic that we are going to talk of here. Let me just be brief, as I said. The essence of the difficulties that I know people used to have with maybe customs is mainly because of documentation. You know, we have rules, we have laws that guide our own operations as usual. I really want to appreciate the previous earlier speakers in the name of Mr. Dennis Olisa, Mr. Olusegun Olo, and also Mr. Bamidele, and then Mr. Isa as well. Documentation is just the bottom line. You know, the Nigerian Customs Service is now given priority to exports of goods now, because in a nutshell, import generally have drastically reduced due to so many things, maybe the trade war between America and China, and then maybe because of COVID-19 and other issues, and maybe even because of the financial strength of the importers now, the current situation we have here in Nigeria. These are some of the factors that affected. So by doing so, our forex are always going down. Hello? Hello?
We are hearing you, sir. We are hearing
you.
You
can go ahead. We can
You are loud and clear, sir.
Okay.
We're hearing you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just, before an exporter starts, he must have like 5 to 6 documents that he must present to export, no matter what, because that's just the rules. If we didn't impose these strict measures, I think the CBN will not be seeing much of NXPs. Even the commercial banks will be affected, because if documentation, I don't think even it will be affecting even the Zenith Bank as a sponsor. So it must have an exporter must have a corporate identity that's a registered. You must have registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission to obtain certificate of incorporation. That's first. Secondly, he must be a member of Nigerian Export Promotion Council. Third, he must open a domiciliary account with any viable commercial banks in Nigeria. This is just a return for export, repatriation of export proceeds. And then he must open a NXP, that is Nigerian Export Proceed, Nigerian Export Proceed form. From there, he must have his CCI, that is Clean Certificate of Inspection. And then from there, then that's where, if NXP, next payment, CCI are priorities here in export APAPA. Let me just talk generally in export APAPA, because this is where I belong. If you don't have CCI, you don't have NXP, and then you don't have your next payment, you cannot be able to get what we call single good declaration. That is SGD. This is a form that an exporter will fill for us to see a declaration that, okay, I'm an exporter, I want to export maybe 100 containers of cashew nut to Vietnam or to Japan or anywhere else in the world. This is how we access it. So the problem that we are having generally is this: exporters don't normally follow the late container numbers, maybe with application that they want to export so commodity to a so country, but they don't have all these fundamental documents that I stated earlier. Because of that, we do normally reject them. That's why sometimes you used to see a container will enter a Papa port and it will stay for more than maybe 20, 30 days before it departs. This is due to the lack of these papers that they didn't use to present for our own documentation. And as Mr. Dennis said, is the second presenter, I think, is talking about logistics. Yes, we have bad roads, but I think I don't think if customs can. He said that's why we don't have control over roads. I think there is what we call the NPA. That's who control traffic. Actually, we have is a joint task force. Actually, we have the Navy, we have the police, and then sometimes LASMA, they do operate, and then some association of maybe customs license agents that do operate at various parts part of Lagos State. So at least we'll see. But once you have document, we can assure you you don't have any problem whatsoever here in Expo City. And just to facilitate the export trade, we do have another alternative route. Nigerian Customs Service here in Apapa are opportunity to have access to barges and then rail. Most especially, all these containers that you're seeing from rail and barges are containers carrying perishable items. So we give them speedy attention, just not to avoid any problem, or maybe the goods will expire, or maybe they will say that okay, their contract with their importer has been cancelled, or something like that. And then the second issue is lack of awareness. As Mr. Olusegun Awolowo said, there is need for capacity building. Most of the people that will come to us will be saying that, okay, I want to export, but that very item that we want to export is relatively maybe a prohibited item that we cannot give passage. So they'll be saying that, okay, custom is discouraging export, custom is discouraging. It's not like that. Once your goods are good to go, we don't have any, we operate 24 hours. And then we give all the necessary permission for them to load to load their containers at APMT terminals. Lastly, is some of the challenges that we have is we don't have adequate technologies such as scanner. I think maybe if we are provided with scanners, our work will be easier and faster, because it will avoid physical examination. The rigorous to examine a 1 by 20 feet container, they will say conduct 100% physical, but it's just not possible, even though we do try our best to minimize time. But with scanners, I think we can. Then the second one is another one is a delay in deliverance of CCI to cost of facilitation of examination, and then releasing of goods. We don't have. Sometimes the exporters used to complain about the Cobalt people issuing CCI to them, that it would take like 2 weeks, 3 weeks for them to get CCI, and we cannot give clearance without that, because that is what we can see as a confirmation that yes, they have really necessary conditions. Thanks to the CBN for introducing export monitoring system that we can see here on our system. At the comfort of your bed, you can operate 24 hours. We do work almost getting 24 hours. I receive calls from different agents that, okay, my container is not clear for so maybe for rail or maybe for barge. That okay, I will say, okay, please just send me the container numbers. Then your WhatsApp on. I will send my email. They will just forward it, and I will give the clearance I need to go. In a nutshell, maybe I will be as brief as possible. Maybe we'll talk more when we get to questions and answers, or if there is anything that you think maybe I can shed more light on, Mr. Harry.
I can. Right. No, Mr. Abba Adamu, I believe that is it. I think you.
Yes, Mr. Harris.
You have been very efficient and effective on time management, and I think you communicated very correctly, completely. So thank you so very much. If there are questions, we'll get back to you at the end of the program. Thank you, Mr. Abba.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harris.
Right. Now we will hear from the last paper today, which is from Alhaji Kabiru Dankadai from Cobalt International. Alhaji Dankadai, please. and about 10 minutes, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I hear you, sir.
It's not Alaji Dan today. I'm representing him. My name is Imegu. Hello?
We're
Yes,
hearing
go
you.
ahead. We can hear you.
Yes. First of all, on behalf of the management of COBAT, we're likely to thank the Zenith Bank for creating this opportunity and this platform for us to share more light on the issues on port reforms agenda and other challenges concerning the non-oil export. I'm going to dwell on the setting port reform agenda for efficient export business operation in Nigeria. I'm not going to take much time, but as a proud member of the port community, I'm honored to be included today as a representative of COBAT, as a pre-shipment PIA, to shed more light on the background and latest development in this sector. Like my friend said, the custom guy, the Nigerian Customs Services, ABA, I know them too well. I work closely with them. Even his Oga, Nelson Ochai. He made mention of something I just want to clear it off the air. He mentioned something of COBA delaying some of the CCIs of 2 to 3 weeks. And he mentioned of the documentation there, which maybe somehow is not too clear to most of our listeners here. First of all, I have to commend the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, for their quick response on online trade services, and which have really impacted on this period of COVID-19. Because during that period of COVID-19, we are virtually on the field doing the job, which made it easier by not the exporter coming to the office to submit an NSP or the bank themselves. Rather, they upload it on the system, on the platform, and at the same time, will be treated that way and upload the same thing there. And the next will be paid, inspection will be done, the next will be paid, and we'll print the CCI and upload it on the system. When you look at the portal there, you see anytime this NSP is being uploaded, the time is there. Anytime we upload our own invoice, final invoice, the report findings, you will see the time there. So the duration of the time of the inspection depends on the time we are being invited for the inspection. And once we are being invited, we'll go ahead and do the inspection. After the findings, we'll upload it on the system. The time is all there. Most times, when we finish that, we'll now go ahead and print CCI and upload it back to the system, which sometimes the custom find it difficult to get access to that. Like you mentioned, they don't have much of the IT is not really working much, but I'm not going to talk on that. Looking at the pre-shipment inspection, we're not going to talk about much on the Export Act, which is number 10, and what the Act requires the exporters to do. I'm looking at the export guideline and what exporters are supposed to do. That was the initial way of operating on the NSP. When you do the manual one, when the exporter needs to open an NSP and fill the NSP, call for inspection by filling the RFI, and you look at the role of the PIA. But when you look at the role of the PIA, we have a lot to do when it comes to inspection, because sometimes what you have on the ground might have discrepancies on the documentation, which the CBN have taken care of most of those things. Whatever you fill on the NSP online, and after inspection, we always correspond with that, because they don't have to go and making any mistake of having below or above what they're supposed to do, because they know whatever that is there should be exactly what is there. Like I said before, the trade monitoring system, where the CBN have created this portal, which have helped so much in terms of documentation. And with that, it's very easy for an exporter to fill an NSP at anywhere, comfort of his home, and submit to the system, to the portal, and call for inspection, which will now bring COBA to go and do the inspection, or the PIAs that is assigned to that area. So with that, after the inspection, the physical inspection of the goods, we try to verify exactly the quantity and the true value of what you're exporting. Sometimes you have them not having the actual amount of the pricing. Sometimes they do have a lower pricing on that. So when we finish the verification, we'll call it PAV, price verification analysis. So that's when we'll identify if the price is low or higher than that. And after that, we'll upload it to the system, to the portal, and the NES will be paid. Immediately the NES is paid, the CCI will be printed and upload to the portal. We're looking at the export logistics here. In line of the large international port, the transition of the Nigerian Port Authority from an operational to a landlord port authority enable widespread development and focus on a strategic improvement, which MP have done so much in terms of all this port reform, because instead of having much congestion in the ports, because of all these bonded terminals here and there, it reduced most of these things, and which have really helped in terms of the export. Because you find out that some of these perishable items, like the perishable goods, most times they were given concession because they have to move from the barge or railways to the port. And at the same time, we'll make sure that we don't delay anything on that. We can as well as go for inspection at any time, any day of the week. Even on Saturday, we'll do inspection, not only on the perishable items, but to other goods, in order to make sure that nobody have any inches in terms of documentation. And the Nigerian Port Authority have really helped so much in terms of that. In evidence that this positive development will continue for the benefit of all port users, particularly the business ease of doing business, we have to start. Let me not go too much. The recommendation here, we have already voiced our company's confidence and admiration for the Nigerian Port Authority and the many developments being achieved in regard to export logistics. Our recommendation today applies to our own set of activities, that is the development of Nigerian export business, and in particularly non-exports. When you look at this dark age, when we come to in terms of this COVID-19, with the help of the online documentation, they have made it easier for exporters to upload, open the portal and upload their documentation there, the pro forma invoice, and just give us all the necessary information we need, then they will call us for inspection. So the online NSP have really helped out when you talk about the export business now. Going back from what my friend and the custom said concerning the delay of CCI in terms of 2 to 3 weeks, I don't think he has every figures on that, because not what they said. When you have issues like that, like the former DC used to do, he called to COBAT and asked if these people have CCI ready or if they have not done it. If there's any difficulties in all those things, we'll give them information. But for him to come out and say we have been delaying CCI, we have not seen that, and nobody have complained that as far as I know. And at the same time, we have to commend Zenith Bank for this platform they have created for us to air our view on this thing. Thank you so much.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Obe. Thank you so very much. Very concise, and you kept your time. And I'm sure there will be a couple of questions that you need to deal with. All right, so I think that brings us to the end of the presentations. And I would like to invite my colleague, Dr. Fashoranti, who will manage a few questions that have been directed at the platform to each of the presenters. And we'll coordinate that going forward. Chokwe, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Harry. Let me say that this has been a very enlightening, a very enriching webinar with a lot of rich content from all the presenters. I've been taking notes here. So you would think that maybe I want to even go and consider starting, an export, business if I'm able to. But of course, I can't do that. But I must say that I've been very, very enriched today by the content of the presentations. Let me thank the speakers for their contributions, and I will quickly go to the questions and answers. Actually, I'm going through the Q&A section, and I can see that there are about 250 questions. There is no way we can reasonably deal with all those questions at this seminar. So what I've done is this. We actually have an export desk in Zenith, and we're going to flash an email, some email details where you can email these questions to directly, and you will get responses from us, from our export desk. The email is trade services exports@zenithbank.com. So let's put up that email link for our participants to be able to directly send their questions to us. And we can guarantee that we will respond in details to all these questions and all these inquiries. I have some questions here that I will take on behalf of the bank. Let me go through what I have here. Okay, first of all, I see a question here from Mrs. Yosola Ononuga. The question says that, how do I partake in your 0 to hero export scheme? Well, it's very simple. You can easily send your application to us through your branch or any of our relationship managers where you're banking across the country. Just that will open the door for you to access the program and the schemes that we have under the 0 to the hero export scheme. Okay, I have another question here that says, that is from Idris Oyelaki. It says that, please, is there Zenith Bank collaboration in Malaysia for easy access of FX? Oyelaki, thank you for that question. I can say that we, as a bank, we have correspondent banking relationship across the world. We can transact with any bank across the world. What this relationship does is that it provides a platform for us to provide what I would say efficient trade transactions, letters of credit transactions, documentary credits, pre-export, post-export transactions, export financing, structured trade. All this we can offer to you by liaising with our corresponding banks across the world. So whether it's in Malaysia, it's in Europe or North America, we are there for you. Another question, so what are the minimum requirements for getting financing from Zenith Bank? Okay, to get a loan from a bank, banks have what they call a risk assessment criteria, okay, where they request for information from you that will tell us exactly what to offer you, exactly what tenor and what are the terms and conditions for what to offer to you. Again, please, you can approach your relationship managers or your branch, and they will give you the list of the information that we will need for us to determine what is your RAC. We call it RAC, your risk assessment criteria. And that will determine what nature of facility that we can give to you. We're in the business of giving out loans, and we're looking out to, give out, of course, facilities to encourage exporters who are just trying to build their own business in this regard. So please reach out to us. If you don't have an account, open an account with us and talk to us through your branch or through your relationship managers. We are all available. And like I said, there's some numbers we're putting in the chat room for you to also call us. In addition, the email that I gave earlier, please send an email to us, we'll be very glad to answer your questions. Let us take 3 more questions. It says that, okay, these questions are similar, so I'll give the same answer. What does it take to start exporting? Another says that, how do I identify a genuine buyer? Another says that, what opportunities are available for SMEs? I love this question actually. What opportunities are available for young SMEs who want to start, exporting? Now, there has been mention at this webinar of a Zero to Hero program. Now, what this does is that it addresses how to start from the scratch. So on this program, we are liaising with experts that will guide you, that will help you in respect of exporting, that will tell you how to get genuine buyers, how to source export items, how to provide packaging. They will tell you about standardization and all the other technicalities that are involved in exports. So basically, I will refer you back to register with us on the Zero to Hero Export Scheme, where all this information are available to assist you and to help you to be an exporter. So I know because of time, I will have to stop here. But again, I will refer you to the link that we provided, where you're going to send more questions to us and we'll respond to them accordingly. So Henry, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tokwe, so very much for taking those questions. Before our good friend Olusegun Awolowo leaves, I would like him to, because something he has done so well with NAPC is the One State, One Product program. I believe that's a program, if well entrenched and pursued, will develop export business for Nigeria. Maybe we'll take 1 or 2 few words to expatiate to us how he's doing on that program going forward. That is the One State, One Product program from Segun Awolowo. Okay, I think it's engaged right now. I also know that the representative of the Director of Trade, Mr. Jibrin, I believe is in the house. The Director of Trade and Exchange of Central Bank, somebody is standing in for her right now. That is Mr. Jibrin, is in the house. Because in the collaboration with the NAPC, the COBAT, and the Central Bank, we know that for export, there's a repatriation requirement for 180 days or 90 days, depending on what product you are exporting. But in the marketplace, we don't have a portal where if you have not repatriated your goods, you are unable to probably do the next export. It's today done on a bank-to-bank basis. The question is, what are we doing as a system to have a portal that is that has visibility around the banks, where you have not repatriated your previous export, you should not be able to do the next export. I think that is something that will bring efficiency to the marketplace. We might not have the answers here, but it's something we all need to think about from the central bank, from the customs.
Henry, I think we have an answer.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm happy to be part of this discussion. I think it has been very, very enlightening so far. For the issue at stake, we are doing a lot of work on that project. It's part of the automation of the export process that the last speaker alluded to. And we have gone far into that process because that has been a very big issue for our exporters. We have a system in place now that can track your export process repatriation. What we have done here is that at the in-house here, we're looking at the system in-house here to see how efficient it is before we deploy it to the general public. So we're thinking we're on the same page with that, and that is exactly what we deploy in months as we speak, because the system for us now we're good to go. Having to use it for some time now. So very soon we'll deploy that system for the general public to use. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I believe that will provide a lot of answers and efficiency to the system. Thank you so very much. And I would like to invite my colleague, Umar Ahmed, for time, who will probably just give the vote of thanks and closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Henry Oro. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. And I'll start by thanking all our participants. As at the beginning of this session, we had close to about 1,800 people who dialed in to participate in this exciting webinar. I will not take time to recap what has been said by the various presenters. My colleague, the moderator, Henry Oro, has done an excellent job. And like we have committed in the course of the discussion and through our chat room, we share all that has been discussed and presented. So my job has been made much easier. It was also a very exciting session for me, particularly from the comment we saw in the chat room, in the Q&A room, and all that. It signifies to us that what we have done or we have planned to achieve, we have substantially achieved it. We feel as a major stakeholder in this system, we have a role to play in ensuring that our country is better off. In as much as I would love to stand on the so-called existing protocol and recognize everyone who has been here, I have started by thanking all participants. But by no means, I must also specifically identify some of our presenters who have done an excellent job by providing us insights into the idea behind the discussion and our patriotic zeal as a people, as an institution, to diversify the economy of our country. Particularly Dr. Naji, the Director of Trade and Exchange, for a brilliant paper and an excellent presentation. Mr. Segun Awolowo, we will also not be tired of thanking him and commending him for his support always. And also Mr. Ali Abdulhamid Ahmed, a very dear friend of the bank and MD of NewSal, who has also been of immense help to the system, particularly within the agri-value chain. All these individuals and the other presenters also, Bamidele, Mr. Odimegu, Abba Aminu from Customs, and Mr. Kabir from Cobalt, represented by Mr. Obi, everyone who has participated and made a comment, either by presenting or by posting their comment in the chat room or by sending their question to us. We, as a bank, we provide you a great opportunity to actualize your dream. First, as an individual, two, as a business person. There couldn't have been a better endorsement than the remark made by the CEO of NEPC, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, in the course of his presentation, where he recognized Zenith Bank as Export Bank of Nigeria. Interestingly, in the chat room, I was wondering when somebody was asking what happened to Nexi. We felt elated by that endorsement coming from somebody of that office, and we really appreciate that. And I think that's a great opportunity for those of you, our customers, to come and experience what we have to offer. Those also who are in this chat room and those who participated, even if you're not our customers, this is also an interesting platform for you to know that this is the bank of choice. We are your everyday bank, and from the content we have provided and also the contacts we have provided for both the export potential and customers, and of course, every other business you might be intending to have with Zenith Bank, we have various channels with which you can reach us and do business with us. So we'd like to thank you and everyone. This forum provided us a huge opportunity from the comment we have seen to also raise posers for some of the regulators who participated in this session to take back home. We've seen the challenges, the issues affecting exporters across all the chain, from the sourcing of raw materials to logistics to financing, and even the congestions and the port and all the challenges that come from the various papers presented by my colleagues, particularly the one presented by Dennis. And at the end of it all, I want to specifically thank my GMD for his exemplary leadership and his remarkable and obvious leadership. For those who saw his comment at the beginning, you could see the patriotic zeal. Like Segun said, he wasn't only speaking as MDC of Zenith Bank. To me, he sounded like a representative of government. And that's the spirit here. And that's the leadership he has provided. We're all imbibing it from our leadership from the very top to the very bottom. We all share in this dream of a future great Nigeria. We have no other place but this country. And this webinar is an indication of our commitment to driving a new Nigeria where we'll be self-sufficient and not over-dependent on any other party. COVID and Corona issue provided us a major eye-opener where we saw the need for strong independence, where you do not need to depend on others for your means of survival. And I think for us, this session is just an opening entry for the various numerous things we intend to do to help our system and economy grow. Thank you very much for everyone that has participated, and particularly we want to thank all our presenters for their diligence and their time to come and share with us their experience. And of course, the regulators who will also take back some of the issues raised for them to work with government and provide a much more enabling environment for exporters and Nigerian businesses to thrive. Thank you very much for participating, and thank you once more. Thank you, everyone.
Right. Thank you, Umar Ahmed. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much for those wonderful words as closing remarks. Thank you so very much. We also like to thank Acha Ndukwe and his team in trade, and those of you on technical IT for making this very, very successful. We also thank, of course, Dr. Awolowo. The thanks have been given to you. We appreciate your staying through with us. We really appreciate that. And we cannot thank our group MD enough. Thank you so very much for your leadership, we always say. And my last few words will be to all of the participants that when some people are building castles and edifices, some others are complaining about the dust. Let's not be those who complain about the dust. Let's be those who build the castles. Let's be those who are making things happen. So I want to encourage us to take the advantage of this seminar and take that first step forward to start generating export businesses for yourself and for this country. And at the end of the day, we build a more robust country together, and we'll be happy together. And remember this day as a day that the change and the rejuvenation started. I'd like to thank every one of you for your participation. And the numbers are going to be put on the, I believe, on the platform where you can send your mails or call. I hear there are some issues that you want to talk to us about. You can always follow up on those issues with us after this seminar. So thank you so very much. And for closing prayers, I'd like to invite Abdul Malik Ibrahim to close for us in prayers. Abdul Malik Ibrahim, please. Okay, if it's not there, I believe we still have Abba Adamu, who was one of the great presenters of it, who presented a good paper on this program. Abba Adamu, is he here?
Yes, Mr. Ari, I'm with you.
Yeah, please close for us in prayers.
Okay. صلوا على النبي الكريم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم في العالمين انك حميد مجيد. May God bless this very gathering that we just had, and may it be beneficial to every member that participated. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a beautiful day, folks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.